The weather forecast for today announced that it would rain across the country due to a cyclone passing through. That would be devastating news for anyone planning to go camping. Preparations were made and the sky was blue without a cloud in sight. He cooks calmly and thanks Mr. Park, saying that he will eat properly. The pot is on a small stove and the food looks very good. The young man says that fermented kimchi with pork belly is a very good combination to make. He opens a can of beer on that wonderfully sunny day. After a few long gulps, an expression of joy and contentment appears on his face, and it doesn't matter if it rains or pours, the day is too beautiful. Someone calls out to Kang and announces their arrival. Kang is happy they have arrived because he had made more food than necessary for just one person. The man who announced his arrival approaches, smiling, asking if there is still that thing called alcohol. Other hybrids are with him, covered in abundant fur and animal-like ears. The one is focused on the food being prepared. The old man notices that there is something different there, something new. The elf approaches with a distinctive bird on her arm and apologizes for disturbing Kang's rest. They are all there in the middle of that clearing within a huge forest in a place of majestic beauty. This special place is not on Earth. The young man who got out of the car asks if that is the shop his grandfather had, saying it had an interesting personality. Looking at the masked young man in the car, he asks if Korea's most famous chef is going to open a restaurant there. The masked man wants to know if there is no one else with them. He's worried because the last time they were careless, they were caught by a paparazzo. The masked man becomes a bit reflective with that information. He calmly lowers his mask because his companion is not wrong about that. If someone saw him, they might think he believes he's a celebrity, even though he isn't one. The young man walks with his suitcase toward the building's entrance. But at that exact moment in life, wherever he goes, many people recognize him in some way. He graduated as a chef from the CIA, one of the 3 best schools for training cooks. He also won an international competition held in Paris. After that, he was recognized and started receiving numerous invitations from television stations, which resulted in even more publicity. They think that because he is young and talented, he certainly has a bright future. A fan shouts Kang's name, saying he is a true fan and would love to have a photo with his idol. But he is soon stopped because he was being too invasive, and that was a kitchen with professionals. His colleagues criticized him because that fan harassment was hindering the kitchen's workflow. His coworkers believe that he looked down on them. Along with fame comes the hatred of anonymous people, and there are many comments intending to belittle his achievements as a chef. Kang reads those comments and is filled with great disappointment. He's lying on his bed, tired of all that stress. Inside the building, the other young man brings more things and says that Kang should think carefully about it because he wouldn't earn much in that place, but he also wanted to rest. His friend points out that those who want to rest don't start a business from scratch. Kang says that for him, cooking is therapeutic rest. Kang is hyper-focused in the kitchen. The young man wants them to eat something now before they start work because he's already starving. Since they were far from the city, they couldn't order, so they would need to go out. At the restaurant, a plate of pasta and side dishes are on the table. Kang looks at it as if it were a recipe made with radioactive ingredients. The young man notices that the chef is looking at the food with suspicion. Kang is furious and wants to call the manager because he's not going to eat that. His friend tries to calm him down, but he says that is not human food. The friend eats and says that the sauce is good and that the food isn't bad. Kang looks at the plate while thinking about the concept of flavor. He is unable to taste food. A plate falls in the kitchen, shattering. It was Kang who had let it fall after having a stress crisis. With his doctor, he received the diagnosis that he can no longer taste food due to the stress he feels, and there is no guarantee of surgical cure. The doctor suggested that he get a hobby to distract and calm himself. Kang heard those words completely unfeeling, as he wouldn't be able to even if he wanted to. In the restaurant, the young man says that there are few customers in the area and not much to do there. There are only mountains and open fields and nothing else to do. Kang says that this area is perfect, and with that kind of terrain, he can go camping. The car drives along the road surrounded by large trees. Kang is counting the items he's taking: an oven, a pocket knife, some screen, a compass, and a map. The driver asks if the young man is heading to the sea. Kang says that he's actually going to the mountains to camp. The driver jokes that with those clothes, he should take a tube. Kang doesn't understand, and the driver says he should think better. He didn't get the man's joke. He asked to stop at Yongping village, and the driver warned him that they don't sell tubes there. But there is a place where Kang would like to stop first. The village is small and very bucolic. It was the first time he had returned there since his grandfather passed away. He should clean that house before moving on. An open door catches his attention. It's a storage room, and it should be like that. He's scared, thinking it might be a thief, and if it is, he'll use his metal case to defend himself. A shadow came out, causing Kang to be startled. Catching his breath, he realized it was a cat. Looking at the cat, he threatened it, saying it should be grateful for being a little animal. No one else goes to that place, so even the animals are coming and going as they please. Kang looks for the light switch. Looking around, he notices that something is odd. From the outside, that place didn't seem so big. He keeps walking, and the lights start to change. He feels a slight breeze passing over his face. Looking down, he comes across something different and wonders what it could be. Kang was facing a pit that didn't seem to have a bottom. The ground beneath his feet crumbles, causing him to slip. He panics as he falls into that enormous pit. Kang screams as his body is swallowed by the hole. Meanwhile, a strong light shines down on him. Kang is lying on the ground, and when he opens his eyes, he realizes he's in another place. That place is completely unfamiliar to him, and the young man wants to know where he is now. He feels something wet on his hands. Acting reflexively, he pulls his hand away, startled by the sensation. It was a little creature similar to a squirrel, but with very long ears. While trying to guess what that creature could be, it flies away with its big ears. Kang watches the animal's flight completely dumbfounded. He's scared because that creature doesn't exist. A noise nearby gives him a fright. Looking at a nearby bush, he sees the head of a rabbit peeking out from the leaves. But the little rabbit comes out of the bush, revealing a body chiseled like that of a bodybuilder on creatine. He watches it leave, hopping calmly. Kang is desperate and wants to get out of there as soon as possible. This place is definitely dangerous, and there are other creatures watching him. Kang is tired, and there is no phone signal or people in that place. Remembering the doctor's suggestion that he should go camping, he didn't expect to get lost on the first try. The young man's stomach growls audibly. Even in such a situation, he feels hungry. In the dark, he improvises a fire to warm himself. He managed to make a fire, but now he has another problem. He has few ingredients at the moment. The other things were in his metal suitcase. At least he has some mushrooms that might come in handy. He can't eat them as they are, so he needs to cook them. He pours oil into the pan along with the mushrooms. He sautés them and adjusts the flavor with a bit of salt and pepper. After a quick cook, this should be more palatable. Looking closer, he can't believe he calls that cooking. He puts them in his mouth and thinks that under normal circumstances, he would spit them out immediately. It's no surprise to him what happened. The food still has no flavor at all. Kang throws the pan far away. Now he's sitting in front of the fire, completely frustrated. He remains seated, saddened by being lost. A suspicious noise catches his attention and Kang looks behind him. There are many small lights in front of him. Those little glimmers are eyes. Kang is terrified, imagining they could be wolves, and tries to grab his pocket knife. While reaching for it, he realizes it would be completely useless for self-defense. A huge jaw emerges from the bushes. Kang's terrified eyes reflect the horrifying image in front of him. Kang screams desperately as he puts his hands in front of him to protect himself. After a while, nothing happened. Gathering the little courage he had left, he decided to open his eyes. The animal that was in front of him was no longer there. Kang doesn't know why they disappeared, but he soon hears more noises around him. An animal was leaning over the pan he had kicked away. He looks at it, trying to understand what happened. The animal had eaten all the mushrooms that were in the pan. That cute little dog is now gently staring at him. Kang is surprised because he didn't expect to encounter a dog. The little dog stays there and starts scratching itself. Kang thinks for a moment and wonders if it's a husky puppy. He wants to know where it came from while the puppy leans against his leg. Kang asks what it wants there. He tells it that if it's already eaten everything, it should be on its way because he doesn't like dogs. He says he doesn't understand why people like dogs or find them so cute, all while petting the puppy that is already in his lap. Feeling the rough texture of its fur, he imagines it must be wild. Looking closer, he notices that its appearance is different. Sharp claws and teeth, it's probably a wolf. Now Kang is terrified of that little animal. A wolf pup would terrify anyone, because where there's a pup, there's a mother and father, and they probably aren't cute or friendly. Maybe Kang saw them earlier. If there's even a slight misunderstanding, Kang could become the pack's snack. He thinks for a moment with the pup in his lap. His thoughts are too pessimistic and Kang can't bear the weight of his own pessimism. The little dog says that if he isn't devoured, he'll pass out from hunger. But Kang thinks he's doomed either way. The pup starts dragging him and the young man warns that his meat stinks and advises against eating him. It takes him to a place with a light source. Kang feels the brightness on his back and decides to take a look at it. That composition is similar to the hole he fell into. His surprise is so great that it scared the pup. He believes he might be able to return through that, but he's still a bit apprehensive. The portal is facing downward, so there's no guarantee it's the way back. It could lead to hell. He wants to take a peek first and sticks his head in, to the pup's astonishment. The little dog was fascinated by the scene and couldn't resist. It took a bite out of Kang's rear, making him tear up in pain. The shock caused the boy to fall into the portal, and as he falls, Kang curses the pup. The little dog just watches as Kang goes deeper and deeper into the portal. His eyes are closed, fearful of what he might see. He timidly opens his eyes to see what's around him. Kang is sitting on the ground outside the storage room. He had returned to Earth. The young man survived that bizarre adventure and is very happy about it. Despite everything, he didn't get to thank the little animal that helped him. He looks up at the sky happy because he knows he won't forget that good deed. Meanwhile, the pup is right there beside him. Looking down, he finally sees the little creature and now wants to know why it's there too. Already in his room, he watches it, thinking about what he should do. He gave it a bath, which was a bit chaotic. Though temporary, he wants to give it a name. He presented some suggestions written on a board. After the unusual day, both are in bed sleeping. The closeness between the two reveals an unlikely friendship forming. The day breaks and the first rays of sunlight stream through the window. Kang begins to stretch in his bed. Feeling renewed, he realizes he slept better than he expected. He looks at the little dog, wondering when was the last time he slept so well. In another room, he prepares to give his canine companion some food. He offers dog food, as wolves must eat that too. However, the pup doesn't hesitate to refuse that meal. Kang offers other types of food for cats, for rabbits, but the pup continues to refuse more energetically each time. The young man is out of patience with the rejection and considers letting the pup go hungry. He leaves thinking he might be able to solve his problem with food while taking care of that little being. After cooking, the table is set with wonderful dishes. He had put a lot of effort into it, even though he couldn't taste anything. Maybe he'll taste something this time. Kang is now surprised because rice cake was on the table eating, but that wasn't his food. Despite that, Kang noticed something about what he was seeing. The puppy simply ignored the food from convenience stores. He ignored the salad and processed meat. To Kang's surprise, he should have eaten the protein being a wolf. Kang is intrigued and wants to test a theory. He made 2 steaks with high-quality meat cooked in the same way, but the sauce used on each one is different. One uses processed sauce, while the other has a recipe developed by Kang and awarded in international competitions. If the puppy can recognize quality food, he should choose the correct dish now. He first sniffs the dish with the industrial sauce, which is also very tasty. If he still chooses Kang's special recipe, then this puppy has the potential to be a first-rate Epicurean. The puppy ate the recipe with the generic sauce. Now he was sniffing the dish with Kang's special sauce. He devoured it with overwhelming voracity. The young man is now certain that the puppy has potential. The puppy's expression is one of immense pleasure. Kang knew he was different and now realizes he can no longer offer him conventional food. He happily looks at the one who knew how to appreciate his homemade recipe. Although it had been a while, it was good to have cooked this time. It was worth it. The young man's outside painting some walls. He paints meticulously, applying more than one coat of paint. Something catches his attention. There was something wrong with that color. He thinks it's the paint until someone says he's using interior paint to cover an exterior wall. He looks at the person who said that. The elderly man continues, saying that young people can't even identify paints nowadays. Kang was a bit annoyed by the fact that the old man approached without even introducing himself. He is the village chief, and since Kang didn't come to introduce himself, he came over to talk to him. Observing the wall, he says that Kang is a terrible painter. He asked if it was his first time doing that. He also asked if the dog was his. Kang confirmed and almost said he was a wolf. The old man told the young man to stop painting because he would find someone to do it for him. Kang said he would do it himself. The elder tried to argue, but the young man was determined. The old man insisted on finding someone. Meanwhile, he tried to pet the puppy, who dodged the contact as best as he could. Kang finds the senior's persistence quite annoying. Nearby, cicadas chirp nonstop. The old man approaches with his construction store cap. He introduces a young man from the village who has experience with painting even though he doesn't look like it. He is Jung Minho. Kang greets them and is surprised that he actually brought someone even though he told him not to. The young man says he'll need to sand that surface, but the old man is prepared and brought some sandpaper with him. They're already working and Kang wonders why they're so dedicated when it's not even their house. The old man learned that the place would become a restaurant. Kang confirms and says the specialty will be Italian cuisine. The old man asked him to repeat it, and Kang says it's Western cuisine. That caught the other young man's attention. He'd like to ask Kang a question. With his mouth watering, he wants to know if they will sell pork chops there. Now seated at the living room table, the painter says that his wife loves pork chop dishes, and the restaurant they always used to go to had closed. She's pregnant, so they can't go very far. He tried making them himself, but the taste fell short of what he wanted. He said it was okay if Kang didn't serve them. He was just mentioning it in passing. However, Kang thinks that even if they're not on the menu, they're easy to make. The problem is offering customers food he can't taste himself. It's completely absurd, he thinks. He believes he shouldn't open a restaurant. Maybe he shouldn't cook at all. But then he looks at the puppy. The puppy is smiling happily because he had eaten very well. Kang watches him and has a brilliant idea. He gets up and slams the table enthusiastically, saying he could make the pork chops. He tells the painter it wouldn't be a problem at all. He's going to help him remember the flavor he's trying to find. Kang is in the kitchen, having listened to the painter's description of the recipe and trying to replicate it. He's wondering whether or not to use tomatoes. The sweetness of the recipe comes from the tomatoes, but not from the extract. The restaurant should use ketchup in this recipe. Now he has all the ingredients he needs to use. He calls for his assistant, Rice Cake, who is ready for his important task. Motivated, he tells the little dog not to get tired before he does. Kang chops the onion with a skill that few possess. The bread ingredients are properly set out on the counter. The steak fries in hot oil, releasing the subtle aroma of the recipe. Rice Cake wags his tail incessantly because he knows it smells delicious. Kang notices that the tail is wagging less than before. Maybe he overdid the sweet and sour aspect of the recipe. He presents more plates of the same recipe and wants his assistant to do his part now. The tail still isn't wagging the way he'd like to see. Kang decides to refine the recipe further. Since he lost his sense of taste, cooking was no longer enjoyable. Rice Cake's belly is now swollen. Kang couldn't taste his recipes, but now he had a way to do so. Kang cooks with enthusiasm as he has regained the pleasure of making his dishes. A car parks outside the house. The painter asks his wife if her morning sickness has passed. She says she's fine and heard that a new restaurant had opened in the village and can't wait to visit. The expectant mother mentions that it's been a while since she last had pork chops and that she's a bit anxious. So Kang is going to make it. He presents her with the dish she requested. She looks at the plate, enchanted, as it seems to be very tasty, given the pleasant aroma it emits. She cuts the meat and feels the tenderness as it is sliced by the knife. She calmly brings a piece to her mouth. The painter watches anxiously and asks his wife what she thinks. She pauses briefly and says that the recipe from the old restaurant was very good, but the one she's eating now is simply incomparable. The sauce has a very similar flavor, but the meat is much juicier and crispier. She had never tasted a recipe as well executed as this one. The woman is so happy that she asked her husband if he remembers their first date. They had eaten that same dish, and instead of eating, he couldn't stop glancing at her out of the corner of his eye. His hands wouldn't stop shaking, and she even got worried. The painter feels a bit embarrassed by this description. After that, she started eating pork chops much more frequently. Before the date, she didn't even like them. Perhaps instead of the flavor of the recipe, what she really enjoys is revisiting that pleasant memory with her husband. Kang is fulfilled by the experience he provided for that couple. He discreetly looks at Rice Cake, who is behind him. His little belly is swollen, and Kang thinks he fed him too much that day. He quietly tells his companion that he did a good job, to which he barks in response. Now the cook is leaning over his notes, deep in thought. He served a customer even before the grand opening. He doesn't need to limit himself to Italian cuisine. He could compose a menu based on what the customers want to eat. There are already places with this concept, but they are expensive and only work with reservations. However, he will think of a way to get around this situation. Looking at his exhausted little friend, he realizes he needs to do something about him. He wonders if Rice Cake is suffering from canine depression, but he takes him for a walk every day. He asks if he misses the forest where he lived. Everything happened too quickly, and maybe he should return Rice Cake to his original home. Looking at his toys, he realizes the house will be much emptier if he leaves. He says he'll take him back, but the memories he has of that place are a bit terrifying. Just imagining going back there on his own makes chills run down his spine. He won't be able to handle it, so he won't think about it anymore. And he noticed that Rice Cake was looking at him. Rice Cake used his most lethal weapon, the cute face, and Kang says he's not falling for it and that you shouldn't even try. Soon both are back in the mysterious forest. Still apprehensive, he asks Rice Cake to stay quiet. Kang doesn't know why he came back to this place, but it will be quick this time. He says everything will be fine. Meanwhile, the trembling rabbit observes him from afar. They walk and Kang wonders what this place is. It must be some kind of alternate dimension, like the ones in cartoons. A noise ahead catches his attention and Kang heads toward it. Separating some branches in front of him, he wonders if what he's seeing is water. The scene left Kang in awe. The horizon line was majestic, and in front of him was an immense lake. Kang gazed at the beauty before him, completely impressed. He understood Rice Cake now. He too would miss home if he lived in a place like that. Rice Cake was at the lake's edge, playing with pebbles. Kang approached him and said he had a gift for his friend, which he would give before leaving. Rice Cake had helped him refine the pork chop recipe, so he set up a small grill by the lake, and he was going to feed his little friend with top-quality meat. Rice Cake looked at the ingredients, barely containing himself, saliva dripping from his mouth like a fountain. Kang slid a piece of butter across the hot pan. He carefully picked up one of the steaks. Then he began to season them with salt and pepper. Soon they were perfectly prepared and placed on a deep dish. Rice Cake's tail wagged uncontrollably. Kang observed his friend's excitement and joked that soon his tail would wag so much that he'd take off like a helicopter. The cook then turned his gaze back to the horizon and admired the beauty of the place. Looking at the grill he had brought, he became a bit introspective. He felt like he was forgetting something. Meanwhile, Rice Cake continued eating happily. Kang grabbed a can of beer. With a view like that, he couldn't just skip having a drink and appreciating the scene. He took a few sips of the beer. Soon his face was filled with immense contentment. He couldn't taste the beer this time either, but he remembered hearing that alcohol isn't drunk for the taste, and that statement was correct. He continued observing the landscape in peace. A blade approached his neck, startling him. The person holding it said that he wasn't from around there and had artifacts he'd never seen before. He demanded to know who he was. Kang was terrified because a real sword was dangerously close to his neck. The man asked again if he was a wizard or a scout from outside. And once more, he demanded to know who this visibly frightened stranger was. The armed man seemed to be running out of patience, waiting for an answer. Meanwhile, Kang began to sweat profusely. His underwear was now heavier than it had ever been. The sword was pressed against his neck. He would never have imagined, not even in nightmares, that he'd have a sword pointed at his throat. He said he was a cook. The man retorted, and Kang insisted that he was just a cook and not someone suspicious. The man wanted to know what a cook was doing there, and the boy said he was just admiring the scenery. Admiring the view in a forest where demonic beasts appear was suspicious, the man said, as he brought the sword even closer. He threatened the boy to tell the truth, thinking he was being deceived. But out on the corner of his eye, he noticed a little creature sitting there calmly. That wolf was too special to be in such a place. Kang had already succumbed to fear and said he would give all the money the man wanted, even if the currency there was different. If he let him live, he'd find a way to pay, but before he could finish speaking, the man withdrew the sword from his throat. Now the man apologized, saying that this wasn't a place for ordinary people and that he had reacted a bit harshly upon seeing a stranger. He introduced himself as Randolph, a knight of the lower territory. He then asked for the boy's name. The cook said his name was Kang, but he was intrigued by the sudden change in the stranger's demeanor. The fact that Kang was accompanied by a white wolf that only appeared in legends was proof that he wasn't a bad person. Randolph saw that the cook was surprised by this association and realized that he didn't understand what the knight meant. White wolves have the blood of the ancient gods. It is said that they are direct descendants of the wolf god. It's said that this god has eyes that distinguish between good and evil, as well as great wisdom. And it is believed that white wolves possess such an ability. And a wolf like that was accompanying Kang, a descendant of a god. This explained Rice Cake's behavior. All of that unusual behavior now made sense, considering that Rice Cake descended from a god. The knight noticed Kang's deep thought and said he didn't know what he was thinking, but it certainly wasn't the case. He asked if the young man had had a meal there, as food eaten with such a view really has a special flavor. He then inquired about the meat. Kang said it was steak and asked if the knight wanted to try some. He says he should say no as he's already eaten, but the truth is he hasn't had food in quite some time. He was only supposed to investigate, but even without being hungry, it would be hard to resist the aroma of those freshly prepared steaks. The knight says he'll accept just a piece, but Kang notices that he has the same expression the little wolf makes when he's about to eat. He prepares to taste the steaks. That's it. Once tasted, his life changed. The meat was perfectly succulent and tender, practically melting in his mouth. It's not easy to find meat of such quality. The knight was intrigued by the can in Kang's hand and wanted to know what it was. Kang says it's alcohol. The knight is visibly intrigued with a childlike curiosity. He wants to know if it comes from the cook's land, as the container was shaped in a way he'd never seen before. He imagines the taste must be as special as the meat. When asked if he wanted to try it, the knight says he was just curious, but he didn't need to taste it. However, he said he couldn't refuse once Kang placed the can in his hands. Kang was impressed by the man's strength. He said he would give him a new one, as he had already drunk from that one. The knight says it's not an artifact, but is equally interesting. He drinks the contents of the can while Kang watches. The knight recognized the taste. It was beer. He just didn't expect it to have such a clear and clean flavor. It doesn't even seem like he was threatening Kang minutes ago. Now he seems like a foreigner in a new neighborhood. The knight says he can't leave without repaying the favor after everything and tells Kang to look for him if he ever visits the city. He just needs to say he's looking for the captain of the knights. Kang is impressed by the man's rank. He doesn't seem like a leader. The knight notices that Kang isn't surprised even after learning of his rank. This isn't an ordinary cook. He tells Kang to be careful in the forest, but since he's in the company of a white wolf, he'll surely be fine. He bids farewell as he was patrolling the area. Meanwhile, Rice Cake asks for more food from his friend. As he continues on his way, he hopes they'll meet again. But Kang wishes he wouldn't leave so soon. Kang is concerned because the knight said he was on patrol. If that's the case, he drank while on duty. It seems that drinking and working is acceptable in that place, and Rice Cake keeps wanting to eat even more. Since that was the last portion, his friend could eat it all. Kang watches happily as the little animal eats eagerly. Thanks to him, Kang's days have been very happy and pleasant, and now that he has to leave him there, sadness grows in his heart. Although the time was short, Kang is grateful. Thanks to him, he perfected the pork chop recipe. He doesn't know if he'll see him again, but he wishes Rice Cake to be careful from now on. He leaves while Rice Cake continues eating. Kang takes timid steps towards the exit of the place. He turns to see his friend one last time, and sees that he's still eating as if nothing had happened. However, it's not like they've known each other for that long. Kang is a bit emotional. Even so, he thought Rice Cake would be a bit more attached to him. But Kang's eyes no longer see Rice Cake, only his empty bowl. He looks around for the pup, thinking he must have gone on his way. Kang decides to head back, but Rice Cake is already hanging from his backpack ready to accompany him. He tries to remove the little creature from his backpack, but it clings to it tightly. They end up wrestling for a moment. Kang wants to know the reason for this behavior. What's wrong with the pup? The little wolf starts licking his friend's fingers. Kang says that this was his place and Rice Cake wasn't supposed to come back to Kang's land. Even though he said that Rice Cake still wants to go back with his friend. He barks cheerfully at Kang, as if he wants to go with him. The boy asks if Rice Cake wants to return with him. After that, he smiles discreetly as he's happy about it. He picks him up and says that the first time he had no choice but to stay with him. But it seems Rice Cake doesn't care. Outside the passage, the vegetation is short and there are some buildings. Kang realizes that with Rice Cake, he'll need to return to that dimension periodically, or his little friend might get stressed. But he thinks this could work, and they could have a lot of fun with it. Looking at the people on the street, the cook wants to know what's happening because it's unusual. Even worse, out of all the places they could be, they're gathered in front of his house. The village chief recognizes him and says he's finally arrived. Kang asks what they were doing, and the elder replies that they're having a banquet, asking if the young man hadn't heard anything about it. He says no, but thinks that even if he had heard, he wouldn't have gone anyway. A local informs the elder that the banner has been delivered. The old man says that it arrived just in time. Kang tries to leave, but the elder says he can stay as long as he likes. In fact, it was a party to welcome him, and the banner said exactly that. Kang looks back, unable to hide his surprise, but it wasn't entirely friendly. Kang now sat at the celebration alongside his few village neighbors. The people chatted cheerfully, and the camaraderie was genuinely sincere among them. However, he was already exhausted from this unplanned social interaction. The elders remarked that they had heard he was a great cook, tall and handsome. Despite this, all he wanted was to leave. The pregnant woman asked the elders not to get too excited, as the cook seemed very tired. He asked her if they do this every time there's a new person. She explained that they try because it's a very small village. She said they try to celebrate good moments and be together. But from the outside, it might seem like an excuse for the older folks to drink heavily. The elder agreed with her and said that sharing is caring, and that's how people get to know each other truly. He suggested to Kang that if he really was opening a restaurant, he could use this opportunity to promote it now. The realization finally hit him. It seems the party also serves to help him with his new business. Kang might have fully believed this if the elder didn't have so many beer bottle caps with him. The elder was ready to start drinking spirits, but he was right. Kang should embrace this opportunity. He observed the villagers interacting with each other. The older folks were casually discussing everyday matters. Kang watched them quietly from his corner. Sipping his drink, he concluded that this wasn't so bad after all. Noticing Rice Cake's absence, he looked around to find him and saw that someone was already interacting with him. The pup was eating nonstop, and they wanted to know who he belonged to. A hand tried to pet him, but the pup dodged it with what seemed like superior instinct. Another person tried to pick him up without any success. No matter how many tried to hold him, Rice Cake evaded them with ease. The elders felt challenged, as if that dog knew exactly what they were going to do. A woman announced that a loin steak was ready, and Rice Cake quickly snatched it for himself. He moved swiftly through the festival, eating all the steaks within his reach. Nothing escaped that little creature. Seeing the commotion, the painter asked if that dog belonged to Kang. Embarrassed, Kang said he didn't know him. Now Kang wished he had left him there. All the pleasant memories had vanished. Looking to the side, the cook noticed there was a child among all the adults in the village. The boy seemed bored. Kang hadn't imagined there was a child there. He was visibly sad, perhaps because he was the only child there. It looked like his grandmother was bringing something to him. She seemed to be talking to him as she handed him something. But the boy immediately reacted rudely, throwing what she brought on the ground. Kang was taken aback by the boy's stubbornness. The grandmother called out to the boy named Sanghu as he ran away. The village chief asked if everything was okay because that was usually a good boy. His grandmother said he'd been like that since he returned from school the day before. His friend had been bragging about eating a sandwich, and he was throwing a tantrum because of it. The grandmother had bought him a convenience store hamburger, but the boy wasn't happy with it. Kang wondered if what the boy wanted was a real hamburger. One of the locals asked if they should bring one when they returned to the village tomorrow. The chief said that would be great. Another person mentioned that they're not sold here, only in a very large chain store. The elders couldn't associate the name with the place and wondered if it was Disney they were talking about. The chief said it was fine. If they couldn't buy it, they'd make it themselves. But the grandmother said she didn't know the recipe. He then cheerfully pointed to Kang, saying that now they had a chef from the capital. He said Kang surely knew about such things, and indeed, it was true. The chief apologized for asking, but Kang was all they had in this town. He also said it didn't have to be identical to what the boy wanted. The boy probably didn't even want the hamburger itself. Actually, he must just be jealous of his friend, since his family went out together to eat. The boy's mother lives in a hospital because she is very ill, and his father works abroad. The little boy was just alone. He is sad and lonely. That's why he doesn't need to taste the same. Kang finally understands the boy's situation. The elderly man says that he is the only child in the village, so everyone should take care of him. And now, he expects the same from Kang. The cook never imagined that this was the boy's situation, and it seems the village chief knows everyone's situation there. He would think the same of him too, if it weren't for the many beer bottles hanging from him. The night finally comes, and the fireflies light up the evening. It was his responsibility now, and Kang did an exchange program in the United States. Making a burger wouldn't be difficult for him. He never went to that restaurant, the MCD. It seems everyone imagines he went there just because he came from the capital, and apparently he will have to do this. Bolinho is already impatient, wanting to eat. The people had to eat only side dishes because someone had eaten all the meat during the celebration. So what he was thinking of doing was the least retribution Kang could offer. Bolinho tries to be cute, but Kang says that won't work and he won't give him any more food that day. Bolinho can't hide that he was devastated by that statement. However, he will need his canine friend to taste a bit of the food he is going to prepare. A delicious and well-prepared burger was now on the plate. Kang made it just by looking at the picture of the sandwich he saw, and he notices that Bolinho's tail is not wagging as vigorously. Kang remembers that when he was a student, he ate several sandwiches. He arrived in the United States with a great passion for cooking, and thinking about it now, it's a bit foolish to come to this conclusion. But he never had a similar passion for anything else in life. Cooking is the reason for his existence. Kang wonders how the person he was would see him now, these days. What would he think about everything? He is intrigued by the fact that he doesn't need to make the same sandwich. So he asks if his little friend can eat more, to which he replies that he surely can, asking him to cook anyway. That's not how he does things. He put on his chef's hat vigorously. He doesn't play around with cooking. Every recipe is serious and made with excellence. A beautiful day begins in the village. The burger meat is being fried with cheese on top. The combination of condiments and ingredients is happening in perfect harmony. Kang is finishing the preparations to present his recipe. Sun, who is sitting at the table, waiting patiently, with little enthusiasm. With him are the painter and his wife, as well as his grandmother. And the young man said that Kang is an excellent cook. He asked the boy if he wasn't happy to finally eat a burger. Kang appears and thanks his customers for waiting. The sandwich now captured the boy's attention. He brought what the boy had asked for. The sandwich was simply impeccable with a magnificent presentation. Its appearance did not leave anything to be desired. Then he asked the boy to try it, who was still looking at it, impressed. He brings the sandwich to his lips. Finally, he takes his first bite of the long-awaited recipe. The boy's mind travels and his eyes sparkle. That must be the taste of a genuinely American burger. That was much better than the convenience store sandwich. There's no comparison, and he quickly tugs at his grandmother's arm. She asks if the sandwich is tasty and says she is happy to see him happy. The boy briefly looks at his dear grandmother, and then looks away. He says he wanted to see his mother. Actually, she thinks she could go to the capital to see her if she asked for a burger. That's why he told her he wanted to try a real burger, and he apologized to her. The boy cries and apologizes for his rudeness. He just wanted to see his mother. His grandmother consoles him and says he shouldn't suffer in silence. She now apologizes for not realizing that the boy was missing his mother. He is so young and yet already has to live without his parents. It can't be easy. The boy can no longer hold back his tears and says he is happy living with his grandmother. Kang just watches the whole scene unfold before him. He tells the boy that soon he will need to go to the capital. And looking at him, he asks if the boy would like to accompany him. The grandmother is surprised by the invitation, and the boy can't believe that he could go with Kang. And Kang says they could even go to the restaurant the boy wants to visit, as he has never been there either. He then asks what Sungwoo thinks about it, and the boy excitedly says he wants to go with him. The pregnant woman says that it's really cool, and the boy should take lots of pictures to show her. His grandmother thanks Kang, incredulous. The cook now thinks he might have gone too far since he left the capital by choice and doesn't want to go back anytime soon. Now both grandmother and grandson thank Kang for his kindness, and despite everything, he is happy that he made them happy that day. He tells the boy that they will go to the capital soon. Kang is now standing in front of his refrigerator, looking inside. At the moment, he has many ingredients left over from other recipes. Looking at Bolinho, he wonders if they should go camping, taking that food with them. He's never been camping before, and once he opens his restaurant, he won't have time for that sort of thing. While he was thinking, he noticed that Bolinho wanted to say something. The puppy was radiant and wagging his tail, extremely excitedly. He knew what that meant. Bolinho wanted him to go to the other world, but that's not what Kang meant. Soon, the two of them are in that mysterious forest once again. Kang laments because he's been to that place more times than he's been to the supermarket. He arranges his things on the ground. Despite everything, the view in that place was really very beautiful and captivating. Prostrated, he began organizing the utensils to set up his camping tent. While trying to figure out his tent, Bolinho gets distracted by a butterfly flying nearby. The tent is almost completely set up, and Bolinho continues playing in the grass. Kang will have to start over from scratch because the tent collapsed on its own, much to his displeasure, and Bolinho continues to be immersed in his own distractions. Kang sits on the grass, tired from setting up the tent. Despite the effort and difficulty, it was finally set up in front of him. He hadn't imagined that setting up a simple tent would be such a challenging task. Kang sighs as he looks up. After all that effort, he finally had some appetite. Already in the pot, a stew is being very well prepared. With a ladle, he serves a portion of what he had just prepared. Sitting in his chair, he eats what he had just made. Near the pot, some little creatures gather, attracted by the smell coming from the stew. Kang watches them as he chews. He picks up some pieces of meat with his hands, wondering if those animals eat meat. He throws a bit toward the little creatures so they can eat. But before it could reach them, a bird snatched it all while it was still in the air. The bird continued on its way while Kang and the little creatures watched it move away from that place. The beautiful butterfly feeds on the pollen of a flower. The little creatures are eating Kang's recipe, and one of them can barely move because its belly is so full. Time passes, and Kang was worried that camping might be a boring and frustrating experience. He looks at the sky calmly, immersed in his thoughts. But doing nothing while in that place is very satisfying. No matter which direction he looks, everything in that forest is beautiful. Maybe this is what they say about natural healing. He misses Belinho, but believes he will return as soon as he gets hungry. It was time to make a campfire. In the distance, unknown eyes watch him attentively. Kang continues eating his recipe calmly. What had been watching him from the bushes leaves his position. Kang hears the noise and looks back, thinking it might be Belinho returning. He extends his bowl and says that he served a generous portion for him. But as there was an unknown hand approaching, Kang notices that it was a stranger and moves away from it. The strange creature was now standing in front of him. Kang watches it while holding the bowl in his hands. Whatever was in front of him was definitely not Belinho. The fox rogue rolls at him, and Kang notices that she is not an ordinary girl. The girl takes an intimidating stance in front of Kang. He didn't expect to find a girl there, but she wasn't an ordinary girl. Large ears protruded from her head, and at the end of her hips, there was a furry tail. Kang is now thinking if she was a mix between a human and a cat. As she growls at him, Kang thinks that she might be a hybrid, half human and half beast, like those seen in movies. She digs into the ground with her claws. The girl leaps towards Kang, intending to take the bowl from his hands. He manages to dodge once again, and the girl prepares to face him once more. She grips the grass with one of her hands, ready to attack again. He tries to reason with her, thinking that Belinho left him to deal with this on his own just when he needed him most. Kang observes the girl for a moment longer. After thinking it over, he decides to speak to her directly. Extending the bowl towards her, he asks the girl if what she feels is hunger. He says that he will give her food as long as she moves a bit further away from him. She approaches the bowl that had been placed on the ground. The girl carefully inspects the contents of the porcelain bowl, taking in the aroma of the food. Indeed, the appearance was extremely appealing. It didn't take long for her to start salivating at the sight of the food in front of her. The girl begins to eat, and as Kang expected, she's not using her hands to do so. She starts having an energetic reaction. It's too spicy for her palate. The girl now rolls on the ground screaming. Kang didn't expect that, but a recipe with kimchi is usually spicy. The cook tries to apologize and offers her some water. However, the initial burning sensation has already passed and she is calmer. The girl is intrigued, licking her lips as she tries to understand this new flavor. She finally manages to taste the amalgam of ingredients present in the stew. The chief encountered the old lady and asked what she was doing there. She said she had come to eat, of course. But the old man said the grand opening was only the next day. She continued on her way, saying she had already eaten and was leaving. She is quite cold and didn't even finish her plate. The old man turns to Kang and asks if she even ate anything because there was still a lot of food on that plate. Kang is silent, deep in thought about what just happened in his restaurant. Looking at the pasta, he wonders what he did wrong with that recipe. Why she left so much food on her plate is still a mystery to him. She simply didn't eat the pasta, and Kang wants to know what the problem was with his recipe. Now he's sitting in a corner, feeling depressed. The elderly chief is concerned about the young man. He asks him what's going on and if there are any problems with the preparations for the grand opening. But Kang says that none of those things were bothering him at the moment. He said he was going to close the restaurant, to the old man's surprise, as it hadn't even opened yet. Sitting at the table, he finally understands what happened. Kang is upset because the old lady left so much food on her plate. He tries to console him by saying it's not like he's an award-winning chef. He doesn't mean to please everyone. What he doesn't know is that Kang is an award-winning chef. The old man tells him not to think about it too much, as she certainly didn't go there for the food. He said that someone used to go to that place frequently. Kang wants to know who that person was. The old man said her husband used to go there when it was a tea house. However, he passed away last year. Now the old lady is a widow. Since then, she spends most of her time at home, and even he doesn't see her often in the village. The old man thinks she still misses her companion. Those who are gone are gone. It's up to the living to live, and the old man thinks that clinging to the past is foolish and prevents us from living the future. What he's trying to tell Kang is that he's not to blame for what happened. She's particular about food, but given the situation, Kang couldn't do much for her. But he can't ignore it now that he knows everything that happened to the old lady. And because of all this, he was now camping in the mysterious forest. Near him are Belinho and the trembling rabbit. Maybe that's why dangerous animals don't approach that place. At first, he was shocked that she left the food on the plate. But now that he knows what she went through, he feels a bit sorry for her. Even so, it was shocking to see that happen with a recipe he executes so well. Perhaps he should prepare some Korean dish for her next time. Above his head, on a branch, is the girl who appeared there earlier. She looks at him, and Kang can't believe it's her again. The girl screamed in panic because she didn't expect to be seen by him while she was sneaking around. Taking care of Belinho, he says he can't believe he's always hungry. The girl gently climbs down from the tree, avoiding Belinho's notice. A tender steak is picked from the tray with tongs. After being properly grilled, it is now being sliced. Presented in small slices, Kang says that the meat is finally ready. Then he grabs his small portable stove. The next step is to prepare the sauce that will accompany the meat. He looks at the girl and remembers her reaction to the spicy dish, so he decides to go lighter on the spices this time. He melts the butter in another pan and sautés some mushrooms. He adds sauce, salt, and pepper to his recipe. As soon as the sauce thickens a bit, he will add grated Parmesan cheese. After that, all that's left is to mix in the already cooked pasta. And to finish, place the slices of steak on top of all the other ingredients. The steak with creamy pasta was ready. He presents the dish to the girl and tells her there's no need to growl at him. She should eat quickly before Bolinho does. She looks at the dish longingly, worried that there might be the same amount of spice as before. Still, she tries it, expecting to endure the heat of the spice. Instead, her cheeks blush with the intensity of the flavor. It was delicious, as if she had gone to heaven and back. The girl is now devouring the pasta voraciously. Kang just watches as all of this happens. She is happy that it isn't spicy. And even though she doesn't say anything, Kang realizes that she wants to eat more of that dish. The young man sits contentedly, noticing that she has a much greater expression of satisfaction now that the food isn't spicy. Kang doesn't particularly like that recipe. It has too many greasy ingredients for his taste, so that combination doesn't appeal to him much. It's more of an exotic pasta than something conventional. He can hardly believe the girl's behavior now, who was aggressive during their first encounter and now purrs like a contented cat. He pats her on the head and says the pasta must be really good for her to have reacted that way. It doesn't matter what kind of pasta it is as long as it suits the palate of the one eating it. Thinking this, Kang has a sudden epiphany. That's the secret. The recipe must be flavorful for the one who consumes it. On his counter, there are several natural ingredients ready to be used. Kang runs the leafy greens under cold water to clean them. Those vegetables have a strong flavor, so he must carefully choose which ones to use in his recipe. He calls for Bolinho because he needs him to tell him what they taste like. Bolinho looks at the dishes with great disinterest. Kang waits for him to taste them, but he doesn't even make an effort to do so. Now he will have to make that recipe without Bolinho's help, but it won't be difficult. He knows how those ingredients taste, and he can't rely on Bolinho forever, so he will get to work. On the door of the restaurant, there's a notice announcing the postponement of the opening. A chef who didn't please his first customer can't open his restaurant. Outside, the elderly chief reads the notice. The old lady is sitting on a bench doing nothing. She looks at the sky, wondering whether to gamble all her retirement on the lottery or not. The elderly chief approaches. He thought she had finally left her house, but there she was. He says she should go out more often because there's much to do outside, including fun things. The old lady asks what brings him there without reason. The elderly chief says he doesn't need a reason to visit a neighbor, and she shouldn't be so cold. He mentioned that the chef was a bit shocked that she didn't eat the pasta she ordered at his restaurant. She said that the recipe didn't suit her personal tastes, and he shouldn't take it personally. The elderly chief says he knows that, and he says she should visit a second time, but she doesn't see why she would do something so troublesome a second time. The elderly chief says that the second time could be different, and she'll never find out until she tries. He asks if it's so difficult for her to leave that lot, and that the restaurant wasn't even that far away. She thinks about it for a moment, and the old man says she should give the chef another chance. As he leaves, he says that the effort might be worth it. He walks away, while the old lady stays on her lot, pondering his words. She is still sitting, but deep in thought. Kang sighs because he had worked hard. Focusing on just one vegetable while preparing the recipe was the best choice he could have made. He harmonized the flavors with seafood. The challenge now would be how to invite the old lady to come and eat there. The bell on the front door rings. Kang steps out of the kitchen to see who is entering his restaurant. The old lady approaches him and asks if the restaurant is open. Kang is speechless at first, but he quickly tells her that it is indeed open for customers. The table is set before the old lady, who waits for the dish Kang has prepared. She is intrigued, thinking if he somehow knew she would come, as the food was already prepared. She imagines it's going to be another Western dish, and she doesn't even like those. Maybe she shouldn't have left the house that day. But then, a nostalgic and comforting aroma fills the air. With interest, the old lady looks toward the source of the aroma. The dish finally arrives at her table and is now placed in front of her. Kang thanks her for waiting, and she looks at the dish with genuine interest. He says that this is a special item on the restaurant's menu. It's lily pasta, a common recipe in Korea. The old lady is surprised that they also use lilies in Western cuisine, and she notices that oysters were also used. A bit more hopeful, she wonders if this dish will be more flavorful than the one she had ordered at Kang's restaurant before. After tasting it, she continues to look at the plate in front of her. The taste of the herbs that bloom in spring reminds her of her husband, who loved that season of the year. He liked seeing the trees bloom, and in her last memory of him, she noticed there were more flowers than in previous years. He always picked a bouquet of flowers to give her as a gift, and he would invite her out as if they were young lovers. She would ask him why he always did those things. Lost in thought with the dish in front of her, the old lady is overwhelmed by her memories. She looks out the window once more. Spring was coming again. She asks Kang if this dish was on the menu the last time she came to his restaurant. He says it wasn't, and she asks if he made it just for her. She wants to know why he stepped outside the scope of the restaurant's concept to make that dish. Kang says he wanted to create a recipe that she could enjoy too. More than that, he wanted to create a new recipe and improve his skills even further. The old lady listens to this patiently, and Kang also knows that he can't rely on Bolinho forever as his helper. That's why he wanted to please his first customer without his help. The old lady picks up the chopsticks once again. She continues eating the pasta that was prepared for her. She takes another bite. Kang watches, surprised, as he didn't expect her to like it. Soon, there was nothing left on the plate that could be eaten. The old lady had finished everything. Looking at Kang, she asks how much she owes him for the meal. She ate everything, much to his surprise, and Kang says she doesn't need to pay anything. The old lady scolds him, saying that the owner of a restaurant can't do favors for customers. She ate well thanks to him, and she wants to pay for it. She also tells him not to undervalue the food he makes. Moreover, she advises him to add that dish to the restaurant's menu because she would come back. Kang listens to those words with immense joy. In another dimension, Kang is with Belinho, both relaxing and enjoying the beauty of that exotic place. He is happy to have pleased his first customer and to have opened the restaurant. He just needed some time to rest. Belinho makes a mess if they don't go there frequently, so it was the perfect place for him to also take a break from the routine. Kang is immensely happy because it was a perfect day to lie down and relax. A large animal passes over his head. The reflection flashes across his glasses, and he's not sure what just happened. A knight appears shortly after. He had lost the trail of the beast. He really wanted to hunt that animal for lunch. Soon he comes across Kang lying on the forest floor. He greets him, saying it's been a long time since they've seen each other, and asks how he's been. Still dazed by the animal's passage, Kang wonders if the knight's eyes are just for decoration. The knight says that Kang chose a good place and that the surroundings are indeed very beautiful. Kang remembers his name and asks if it's Randolph Wright. He asks if he's patrolling the area like last time. But the knight says it's his day off and he's in the forest to hunt. Belinho is happy with that statement, and the knight asks if the little guy is also interested in hunting. The occasion was perfect, and now it's the knight's turn to offer a meal this time. He invites Kang to go hunting with him. Despite the enthusiastic invitation, Kang has no interest in it. He just wants to stay in his hammock and rest. But it was too late. He already had a bow in his hands. His time to rest was now lost. Meanwhile, the knight tells Belinho that this area is frequented by hopping birds. Kang is curious about that description. Imagining that Kang doesn't know this animal, the knight asks him to look in a specific direction. In front of them were several pink-colored birds similar to large ostriches. Looking at their feathers, they resembled large cotton candy masses. Seeing how beautiful they were, Kang feels a bit of regret at the thought of having to hunt them. The knight says those feathers seem very soft. But the truth is that they have a kind of short fur. Kang was puzzled. The birds don't look like what they are seeing. Now Kang doesn't know what to make of that appearance. Then the knight says it's just a disguise. Soon, two birds start fighting, revealing dense muscles beneath their feathers. The knight explains that these were compressed muscles. Kang is horrified by the size of the birds. He can't imagine that his hunting companion expects him to be able to capture these monstrous birds. The knight takes advantage of the fact that the birds will tire themselves out while fighting. He moves forward to hunt them and asks Kang to cover him. Belinho goes on the attack too. Kang doesn't even know how to handle a bow. If he learned such a skill quickly, he would have become an athlete and not a chef. He tries to calm himself and handle the bow, but drawing the string requires more strength than he has. He carefully aims the arrow at his target. He fires the arrow toward the action. It hits the ground beside Belinho. The knight and Belinho look back at him, surprised by the young man's lack of skill. Belinho, in particular, feels betrayed since the arrow almost hit him. Kang, disappointed, tries to apologize to his small friend. Twilight colors the sky, which gradually darkens. By the campfire, the knight says that the meat is almost ready. He asks if Kang will be able to eat since his hands haven't stopped trembling for a moment. But Kang says he can manage. And there was something more important he'd like to say, and the knight is ready to listen. Kang can't really call this food. The smell is too strong, and it would be rude to simply pinch his nose with his hands. He needs to endure it. The first skewer is ready, says the knight. He wants Kang to try it. Noticing that Belinho isn't there, he asks if he went out for a walk. But Kang knows that his friend actually fled from that meal. Kang tried the meat, not expecting anything special to happen. He could taste it, even though he usually can't taste anything. But what really impressed him was that he was able to taste it, even if it was horrible. The knight tries to hide his embarrassment, thinking Kang is impressed by the taste of the food. Seeing Kang's reaction, he believes now is the time to showcase all his cooking skills. But the boy steps in and asks him to stop because he was able to taste it. He was eager to cook that ingredient using his own skills. Despite everything, Kang was still concerned about his condition. He had proven to himself that he still had the skill to do that sort of thing, and he told the knight that, as he had mentioned before, he is a chef. And now he wants to make a recipe using that meat as the main ingredient. Kang tried to remove as much of the strong odor as possible by draining the remaining blood from the meat. However, this process takes at least half a day, and the time he has is nowhere near enough for that. He opens a can, saying that this should be the first step in treating the meat. The dark beer will help remove the unpleasant odor from the meat. The knight can't believe Kang is using something as valuable as beer to treat the meat, but he tells him to go do something else and not get in his way. The man is now preparing a spot over the fire to place the pot. It would also be good to have some bay leaves and fine herbs. He filled the pot with 1 part beer to 1 part water. He added chopped onions, salt, and pepper to the mix, and let it cook for approximately an hour. The pot sits over the fire, slowly cooking the meat. Belinho appears in the clearing, having smelled what was being cooked. It should be ready by now, and Kang wants help removing the pot. He carefully opens the lid to check its contents. The meat looked good, and the sauce had reduced significantly. The knight and Belinho were enchanted by the aroma that filled the air. But Kang said they needed to cook it 1 more time. It wasn't ready yet. If a situation were ideal, he would have put it in an oven. But that's one of the beauties of camping. He placed the pieces of meat on skewers in front of the campfire. As the meat roasts, he says that now they just need to cut it into small pieces. Finally, the roasted hopping bird was ready. The knight is intrigued because he can't believe that the delicious aroma is coming from that bird's meat. He didn't say it, but the best chefs in the territory had given up on making that ingredient edible. The knight finally realizes that Kang is an excellent chef. Tasting one of the pieces, he can't believe the flavor that's hitting his palate. He eats voraciously. The exterior is crispy and delicious, but the interior of the meat is juicy, with its texture perfectly preserved. He couldn't have imagined that such a flavor could exist. The meat was perfectly tender and succulent in a way that seemed almost impossible. It's hard to believe that this was the meat of the birds he's eaten all his life. However, even though it's delicious, something is still missing. The dish needs a side to balance it. At that moment, the knight asks for some beer from Kang, but Kang tells him that he can go and grab a can for himself. The knight then takes long sips of the drink. Afterward, he gives an intense smile of contentment and satisfaction, and he continues to eat the meat as if it were the best thing he had ever tasted in his entire life. That was the perfect combination. He doesn't think he could ever get tired of eating it. Kang says it wasn't bad, but he could have done much better. There's a reason why blood extraction is a time-consuming process, and they could have let the meat rest for much longer. He should also carry some bay leaves just in case. The knight is surprised because Kang is dissatisfied even after doing something unbelievable. His skill must far surpass that of the royal chefs. The knight now wants to know who this mysterious figure is that cooks so well. The campfire burns slowly after everyone has eaten. The knight had intended to offer a meal this time, but once again, he was the one who received a gift. He's intrigued by Kang's ability to prepare food. The young man is happy that his friend enjoyed the meal, and he says that after this, he won't be able to eat the meat the way he used to. He asks if it would be okay if he replicates the recipe from now on. Kang says he can, that it's no big deal. The knight says he knows some good chefs, and he knows that Kang's skills are exceptional. His dishes are brilliant, and he shouldn't underestimate himself. The young man thanks him, and he realizes he's been hearing that a lot lately. The knight says he's been given something incredible and valuable, and wants to repay his friend in kind. So he offers to teach Kang the art of fencing. Kang can't believe it, but the knight insists. Despite being in this location, the knight says he had a great reputation in the capital. And if it's his fencing skill, it's the closest to a fair exchange he has to offer. Kang says he's just a chef, but the knight says countless people ask him to teach the art of fencing. Kang tells him he should teach people who are interested. But the knight says he didn't like any of them, and the next time they meet, he will teach Kang. All Kang needs to do is have some beer and a meal prepared for him. Kang realizes that the knight's intentions are too obvious. Perhaps he's embarrassed to ask Kang to cook every time they meet. The knight continues saying that this is a perfect exchange between them. Kang doesn't mind sharing ingredients and knowledge with him, and he has no reason to refuse that kindness, so he will treat the lessons as physical exercise. It might even help strengthen his arms. The night sky is bright and beautiful, but Kang still doesn't fully understand the extent of the consequences of his choices. Outside the dimension, the cherry blossoms bloom more and more. The birds sing and spring gains more strength each day. A week after the grand opening, many villagers visited Kang's restaurant. That activity lasted for a few days. Kang knew there would be few customers. In fact, he didn't even expect there to be any. Even Bolinho was entertained by the television, having nothing else to do. It was a gift from a customer who no longer used it. He approaches his friend to see what he is watching. There were some women on the other side of the screen. They appeared to be a music band. A name, Yunez, catches Kang's attention as he watches. He thinks he has seen that name somewhere before. A young man with a phone in his hand asks if that job is doable. The women say it's very exhausting and want to know when those images will be aired. The young man pretends to listen to their demands and compliments the women's efforts. It's too exhausting for him. He prefers working inside his quiet office. And there's nothing on their schedule after that photo shoot. Since he's nearby, he thinks he could visit his friend Kang. Calling him, he asks if Kang is still alive. He asks if he could drop by soon so they can have a meal together. He's nearby and only has one more photo shoot to do. He says there's no reason to eat elsewhere if his friend is an exceptional chef. The conversation catches the women's attention. They whisper as they listen to the conversation. The young man says he won't be able to drink because he's driving. They confirm that they'll meet soon, and now the girls have mischievous looks on their faces. The young man is leaving and says he'll leave the girls in someone else's care, who agrees. He tells the girls to be polite and obedient, but they say they've always behaved that way. He tries to disagree, knowing that's not how they usually act. Getting into his car, he says he'll see them the next day. The man who was there says the girls also need to go home now. As soon as he drives away, they turn to the young man and ask him to follow. They can't lose track of him. He says he can't do that because he was ordered not to get distracted in any way. Then the blonde, with her charms, tells the young man that asking for forgiveness is easier than asking for permission. At his restaurant, Kang is cleaning the floor while saying that people can be quite selfish sometimes. His friend only announces his visits at the last minute. If he were busy, there would be nothing he could do. Not that he is, but if he were, it would be a problem. His friend should arrive soon, so he should start cooking right away. Bolinho was entertained by what's on TV. Kang's friend had just arrived. He's with his secretary and says there were only 2 cars on the road, so of course he would notice. The young man tries to apologize. Kang is surprised by this and tries to understand what's happening. Behind his friend, he sees the group of women who were on the television. They introduce themselves and say they are Yunez. They had come along with his friend without Kang expecting it. The girls start doting on the little dog, saying how cute he is. Kang's small restaurant in a forgotten village is now full of celebrities, and Bolinho dodges their affection. Kang's friend scolds the artists, saying they're too disobedient. He wants them to say something to justify themselves, but they can only manage a timid apology. He wants to send them away immediately. Kang understands his friend's situation, but has an idea. He looked at the assistant and found him too pitiful for that role. Kang said it was already dinner time and it would be better if they left with their bellies full. His friend asks worriedly if that would be okay since he knows Kang hates unexpected things. The Kang he knows would have made a scene. He asks the group what they want to eat, and his friend swore that Kang had gone soft when he moved to that village. Looking at him now, it seems like his friend has changed quite a bit, and he's wondering if he used to have dogs. Kang is now in his kitchen, getting it ready. He's thinking about what to cook because he wants to impress them with something delicious. He's considering what he can make with the ingredients he has. He opens his fridge looking for something. He finds a special container that catches his attention. several cherry tomatoes, which he plans to use. He's cutting them because he wants to make a light meal. The pans are already on the stove. He's going to make something they'll enjoy. While grating the cheese, he thinks he'll make something nutritious and tasty. He then finishes preparing a salad. He thanks them for waiting, and they're all impressed with what they see. Kang made pasta and a steak salad. They taste the food Kang just made. Immediately, they start saying how delicious it is. One of them says she usually only eats pasta with white sauce, but this one was exceptional. Another praised the salad and the texture of the meat, asking where she could order it again. Kang tells his friend that since he's already eaten, he'll leave them in peace. His friend says he wouldn't talk to him in front of them anyway. One of the women starts tearing up. She's lived a good life but can't believe she had never tasted anything like this before. Another found it so good that she's actually angry. Kang suspects his friend has been starving them, but he insists that's not the case despite their reactions. He tells his friend that he needs to eat too, as the trip back to the capital is long. His friend is a bit concerned by Kang's thoughtfulness. Approaching him, he asks if Kang is on the brink of collapse, to which Kang responds by asking if he really looks like a terminal patient. As they leave, the women say that it was the best meal they've ever had in their lives. Kang says he'll make something even better next time, to the delight of the famous guests. The blonde emphatically declares that they will definitely come back. He didn't expect that from them. In the car, they say that both he and the food he makes are much better in person, and they say their goodbyes. He didn't expect them to recognize him, but his friend said they watch his videos. Now his friend says he should be going as well, but Kang insists that he wants more notice the next time he visits. His friend asks how his therapy is going in that place. Kang pauses for a moment before responding. He smiles and says everything is going very well. Bolinho sleeps peacefully on a chair. The next day, he's riding a bike with a little dog. The market where he bought ingredients last time is the only one nearby. The others are in the next town over. Kang breaks his little bike after some time. He arrives at the supermarket, hoping to find everything he needs. He enters the market, announcing his presence. The person there greets him, saying he's welcome. She asks if he's looking for something specific, and Kang recalls that the last time he was attended by an elderly woman. This must be her granddaughter. Embarrassed, he says yes, but that he'll look around on his own. They're out of lilies, and the grumpy old lady only likes the recipe that uses them. He asks if they only have those legumes, and the girl says yes. Kang might have to go to the city. He says goodbye and mentions he'll come back another day. He heard some shouting nearby. There was two children fighting, pulling each other's hair. Apparently, the conflict arose from a disagreement over a game. One of the kids calls the other stinky, and the blonde boy says the other is an immigrant and should go back to her city. The insult was completely effective, causing the girl to freeze up while playing her Nintendo. Kang arrives and separates them, telling them to stop fighting. He says that words once spoken can't be taken back and they should be careful with that. Looking at the child, he asks if she's sure she won't regret this later. The girl from the market comes out to see what's happening. She's shocked because she recognizes one of the kids. Her name is Myung. She was the one called an immigrant, and she's her daughter. Kang didn't expect that. The child runs into her arms, and the girl asks what happened and if she's okay. Kang, holding the other troublemaker, is relieved that her mother is there. His job is done. The brat pulls his arm from Kang's grasp and runs off to his hideout while Kang watches. The girl thanks him for intervening in the kids' fight. He says he didn't do much, but she keeps thanking him. Then he asks if Myung is okay. The girl says yes, and that the child had just fallen asleep. She says it's all her fault, but Kang doesn't understand. Kang tries to console her, saying it was just a disagreement between children and these things happen. The girl says she's from Vietnam and her name is Ungun. She thinks her daughter is bullied because of her. The child sleeps, but she cried before that happened. Kang doesn't know what to say. He wants to comfort her, but is at a loss for words. He remembers that the brat said the girl was different from them and should go back to her homeland. He can't discuss this topic carelessly. The girl changes the subject and says she knows who he is, that he has a restaurant in the village. She wants to know if he would teach her to cook, which catches him off guard. She only knows how to cook dishes from her homeland, but wants to make Korean food for her daughter's friends when she has her birthday. Kang sensed a lot of sincerity in her request, and he couldn't refuse. He sits at the table, deep in thought. The reason she wants to learn how to make Korean food made him sad, but he doesn't want that child to be a target of mockery. Bolinho noticed that his friend was feeling down and went to comfort him. In reality, Bolinho was holding a can of caviar and just wanted it opened. That ingredient isn't even good to eat like that, but since it's no longer of use to him, he's going to give it to the dog. However, he reflected that asking for help when you need it is the right thing to do. With a small suitcase in hand, he thinks that's what neighbors are for, to help. In this situation, he knows who to talk to, someone who knows the villagers well. Only one person could help him now. It's the painter's wife, who didn't expect to receive visitors. There's something he wants her opinion on, so she asks him to come in. Inside are the painter and the elderly chief. The elderly man says Kang should have asked for his opinion. Kang asks what he's doing there, and the old man says he came to have a drink. Kang told them the whole story and said he wants to teach the girl how to make a Korean dish. The pregnant woman says she knows who she is and that her daughter sometimes plays with Sang-hoo. Kang is surprised that they are friends and attend the same place. The painter says there's only one school nearby and all the local children go there. Their ages differ, but there's only one class in the school with just over 20 kids. The pregnant woman empathizes with the market girl and says she would do the same for her own child. Thinking about the well-being of a child struck a chord with Kang. He decides he will teach her an easy dish, but someone suggests he do the opposite. The old man says she should make dishes from her own culture. Kang tries to argue, but the old man wisely points out that trying to fit in forcefully can be more harmful to the child. Children her age are naive and don't understand life. They don't know how to accept differences. It's up to the adults to teach that differences aren't bad. The old man lectured, and Kang should do his part in this. A simple bite is worth more than many words. The young woman is in her kitchen. She wonders if this is the right thing to do, considering how different the cuisines of these countries are. She's apprehensive, thinking the kids won't like it. Kang says the quantity is good, but she should go easy on the onions because kids can be fickle. He thought about the spring rolls she made. They are delicious but difficult to assemble, and the kids might not eat them because of that. He wants to replace it with a more practical recipe like gyoza. The kids will love the crunchiness. For her, everything will be fine as long as Kang helps her. The vegetables are being washed, and the bean sprouts are already in the pot. The dumplings are lined up on the baking tray, and they continue cooking the recipes. She had finished the last dish. What she presented to Kang was bun cha, a soup with pork meatballs. It was a traditional dish from her homeland's cuisine. The accompaniments are eaten after being dipped in sauce. Kang prepares to taste the food. The aroma is sweet, and he thinks the kids will like it. He says it will be an excellent main dish and asks her for a glass of water. He watches her leave the room. He calls out to Belinho, who was hiding in his coat. The little dog looks intently at the food. Soon he begins devouring the contents of the bowl. His tail doesn't stop wagging. It was the recipe he liked the most. The girl must be a good cook to have pleased the picky dog. She returns and asks what happened, but Kang tells her to moderate the chili and cilantro and it will turn out great. He suggests using beef along with the pork to add juiciness to the meatballs. He finishes by saying it was very delicious and that the kids will love it. The girl smiles and thanks Kang for the advice. Outside the house, he sighs with relief. She cooks well, which made things much easier, and she understood the advice he gave. There's nothing to worry about, but as he leaves, the child calls out to him. He looks at her briefly. She hands him a handwritten note and invitation to her birthday party. Kang asks if she made it herself, and she says yes, adding that she won't let anyone in without the invitation. And she mentions there won't be many kids at her party, because she fought with Chomin, and he has many friends. And because of that, she thinks no one will show up. Kang listens to the child attentively. The day of her birthday finally arrived. The child is apprehensive, hoping that at least Kang and Sangu will come to her party. She also wonders which of her classmates might show up. But as she stands at the door of her house, she's afraid that no one will come. Her mother appears and asks what she thinks of her outfit. Her eyes light up with happiness. Her mother is dressed beautifully, and she asks what those clothes are. Her mother says it's traditional Vietnamese attire and mentions that she has one for her as well. The girl puts it on and is very happy. The doorbell rings and the child becomes anxious. Her mother says that her friends have arrived and that she should greet them. She's relieved that someone came to her little party. She opens the door, eager to see who has arrived. The child is very surprised by what she sees. An unexpected classmate is standing in front of her. She's taken aback by it. In front of her is the boy who always picks on her. Mysterious, she asks what that troublemaker is doing there. She says she didn't invite him and that he can turn around and leave. As she closes the door, he apologizes to her. He says he didn't mean to pick on her and that he was angry and said things he shouldn't have. Again, he apologizes, clearly remorseful. Crying, he says he's deeply sorry. She watches the scene, suspecting it's just the boy being insincere, but he continues to apologize. Even so, she tells him he can't come to her party because he doesn't have an invitation, and she shows him one in her hand. The boy nearly falls back at that joke. He searches his pockets but knows he doesn't have an invitation. Then the girl decides to give him one. She says she'll let him have one this time. He thanks her for the invitation, happy, while she smiles. The other kids, waiting behind the wall, ask if the couple is done yet. They tell the boy to be polite since he was too harsh on the girl. The other kids have their invitations as well as birthday presents, and they all wish Miyoung a happy birthday in unison. Inside the house, they're surprised by the amount of food. Some ask what it is because they've never seen it before and the noodles look very interesting. Kang is impressed because it seems like all the children from the school are there. The girl's mother explains what bun cha is and how to eat it. The noodles look beautiful and someone starts eating. The children eat voraciously like little animals. Their eyes shine with the flavor of the different dishes. They're impressed, having never tasted anything like this in their short lives. The sweet and sour flavor is so good that one nerd even said he wanted to marry the girl in the future. A boy asks what kind of clothes the birthday girl is wearing. She says it's traditional clothing from her mother's homeland, and that all the dishes are Vietnamese. One of the children says she must have traveled by plane, and that's really cool. The nerd thought the dress was so beautiful that he wants to marry someone in one in the future. The birthday girl wants her mother to show off her outfit too, but she's wearing an apron. Kang says it's okay, that he'll take over the kitchen now. The girl pulls her mother by the arm to show her off to her friends. She's happy because her daughter is happy. The children think it's really cool that they're matching. Miyoung stands before them, very happy with her little party, and they are all very happy too. In the mysterious dimension, a village is seen from above. Someone wears an accessory made from an animal's skull. This person says that his daughter has run away once again. The wolf man says that even with more guards, she keeps disappearing. The chief asks if she went to meet the human again, and the wolf man confirms this. He's interested in this human who has caught his daughter's attention and who has a sacred wolf as a companion. He orders the wolf man to invite him there, and the wolf man is surprised that the chief would invite a human. The chief says it's not forbidden and no one would dare mess with his guest. He adds that if his daughter is indebted to him, she should show gratitude. The chief then reveals herself to actually be a chiefess. Night falls, revealing great beauty in the forest. The deer listens to the sounds of the forest. Kang is covering his ears, asking Belinho to stop barking. Belinho is enraged, and Kang tells him he can play with the hopping birds. And he realizes Belinho is glaring at the shrimp with anger in his heart. The strangeness might be due to the fact that he has never seen a saltwater animal before. And he tells his friend that they might seem strange to someone who has never seen them. Kang reflects a bit on the things he has already encountered, and he realizes that Belinho's prey are far more horrendous. His standards are bizarre. But he's determined to show his friend the taste of shrimp. He begins cleaning them, removing that disgusting black vein. After cutting them, he prepares a bed of salt and positions the shrimp on top. He covers the pan, and now it's just a matter of waiting. He wanted to show this to the knight while Bolinho watches with suspicion. The pan is on the fire and the cat girl is there too, waiting. Finally, Kang notices that she's there. He asks when she arrived but decides to let it go without getting an answer. He opens the pan and says she can eat too if she's hungry. He's carefully peeling one of the shrimp. On their plates, Bolinho and the girl watch with curiosity. They taste the shrimp with a bit of hesitation. Bolinho and she are immediately captivated by the intensity of this new flavor. Kang asks what they think of it, the taste of the sea. But they're too busy eating to answer. He's very pleased that they enjoyed the shrimp so much. The girl asks for more, and Kang begins peeling more for her. The wolfman appears, calling her by her name, which is Mona. She freezes in fear. Mona immediately hides behind Kang. He says she ran away from the village again. Kang recognizes him and says to wait until she finishes eating before taking her back home. He reassures the wolfman that he's not giving her anything strange, and the wolfman listens. He says he's here because of Kang, not her. He calmly approaches Kang and asks him to follow him this time. Kang feels a bit terrified by this unexpected invitation. Kang is worried and wants to know where he's supposed to follow him. The wolfman says that the village chiefess has invited him and that it's wise not to refuse. She's Mona's mother. He looks at the girl and can't believe she's the chiefess's daughter. He thinks they'll interrogate him about what he's been feeding her and doesn't want to follow this man blindly. He tries to excuse himself, saying he's too busy that day and won't be able to make it. The wolfman understands and hands Kang an object. It's a horn used by warriors, and he should blow it to get in touch when he has time. Not expecting such politeness, he becomes intrigued and asks what the chiefess wants with him. The wolfman says she wants to meet the human who lures her daughter out of the village. Kang thinks she must be an angry mother. The wolfman says that's all and that he'll be leaving now, while Kang is terrified because it's not him who calls her out of the village. But before he leaves, Kang asks him to wait a moment. Life carries on as usual in their village. The wolfman opens a bag. Inside there are many shrimp that Kang had cooked that day. He says Kang can't leave empty-handed and asks him to take them, mentioning that although they're ugly, they're very tasty. The wolfman sits down with the bag in his lap. It seems he's eating them. His tail wags nonstop and he says it's not bad at all. Kang breathes a deep sigh of relief. He wonders whether he should go or not. Bolinho didn't react, so it's possible they are quite friendly towards him. But even so, he doesn't want to go there without knowing exactly who they are. He'd like to consult someone about this. Just then, the knight arrives and says he suspected Kang would be around. Kang greets him, while Bolinho and the girl are fighting. He says the timing is perfect because he needs help, and the knight agrees, saying he does seem like he needs it. He asks if Kang really was invited to the village of the Beastmen. This is an unbelievable story he's just heard. Kang asks if this is rare, and the knight says they cut off contact with humans, and this is the first time he's heard of such an invitation. Moreover, the tribe practices collective parenting, and they left a child in Kang's care. This is even more impressive. Kang can't imagine how incredible this situation is, being invited to visit them. The knight says Kang can go there without worry. They won't harm him. Kang feels relieved and says over the next time he returns, surprising the knight, and he asks if his friend would like to try something different this time. Kang is sauteing the spices in his pan. Soon, the shrimp are ready and the seasoning is being adjusted. This time, there's sauce with the shrimp, to everyone's surprise. Kang hopes they enjoy the shrimp sauteed in butter and garlic. He teaches them how to peel the shrimp before eating. The knight found the shape of the shrimp strange but was curious about the taste and where Kang gets these unusual ingredients. Surely, Kang is a very mysterious young man. As soon as he tastes the shrimp, he's captivated by the flavor. Kang truly has unique skills in the kitchen. It was his first time experiencing a taste like that, salty and oily in the perfect balance. More importantly, the texture is completely addictive. He's certain he could eat kilos of that ingredient, but peeling them is too much work, so he starts popping them whole into his mouth. Kang notices that everyone is eating the shrimp whole because it's too much trouble to peel them. For them, it's a delicacy, and Kang lets it slide because it means he won't have to peel more shrimp. The knight thanks him, saying it was an excellent meal. Kang is happy that they enjoyed it, while Bolinho and Mona have their stomachs noticeably bloated. The knight now feels compelled to teach Kang the best he has to offer. Kang wonders what that could be. The knight says it's fencing, of course. He had completely forgotten about that. He tells Kang not to worry because they'll start with the basics since it's his first lesson. Time passes and the sun is already setting. Kang is sprawled out on the ground, exhausted from the lesson. The knight says Kang is out of shape and has a long way to go to become a warrior. He doesn't understand how a young man like him is wiped out after a 4-hour walk. Bolinho tries to cheer up his friend by licking his leg. Kang feels like the pain disappears wherever Bolinho licks. It feels nice, like a local anesthetic is being applied. The girl starts doing the same, but it only feels wet and smelly. He pushes her away, telling her to stop. However, the knight says that Kang's persistence in not giving up halfway is admirable. He presents him with a wooden sword ideal for training. He says he made it for his daughter, and upon hearing that, Kang says he can't accept such a gift. The knight assures him it's okay because his daughter has trypanophobia. The knight is excited because with his guidance, Kang could become the greatest warrior who ever lived. The young man realizes that from now on, he'll constantly suffer from muscle pain and accepts that he's now under the knight's tutelage. Later that night, Kang is back in his restaurant. He's cooking some meals while Bolinho watches. He's very exhausted from the day's activity, and it's been a while since he last ate so late. Bolinho looks at his pasta with genuine love. Kang says he just added a little bacon and seasoned it with garlic, but it should taste good. As long as his friend liked it, it would be excellent for him. Kang stands still for a moment and Bolinho notices. He suddenly slams his hand on the counter and heads straight to the cupboard to grab some olive oil. He places it on his kitchen counter. Soon, there are several saucers with different sauces separated. Kang stands there looking at it all. He gazes at the counter in front of him, filled with various ingredients. The young man is still a bit surprised by what's happening. After so long, he's finally able to taste things again. Kang still can't taste things like he used to, but he can sense some flavors. If he had stayed in the capital, he probably would have given up cooking for good. When he arrived in that village, he had already given up on himself. He bows in the kitchen, emotional about what has happened. He can go back to cooking the way he used to. He calls for Bolinho, who is there with him. The dog stays by his side, waiting, and Kang says he's happy he moved there. The night sky is completely filled with stars. The elderly chief is walking around the area. He's completely drunk and still blames his friend who invited him to drink. Next time he sees him, he thinks about bringing a bottle of Catch on the 51. He looks at the restaurant and sees that the lights are on even though it's late and wonders what Kang is doing at this hour. Kang is slicing some ingredients. In his frying pan, he's sauteing some others. Kang handles everything delicately. Bolinho is enchanted by the aroma that fills the place. In the oven, the dish is slowly cooking. A delicious meal is now ready. It's been a while since Kang made this, the menu he developed himself. With chopsticks, he picks up one of the stuffed pieces of meat and chews it slowly, recalling the flavor he already knew. He can taste the acidity of the dish, but he still couldn't quite capture the umami of the dish. Nonetheless, it was a start. Bolinho was at his leg, barking excitedly. His little face said it all. This recipe was truly special. Kang looked at his friend in disbelief that he enjoyed it so much. For him, half success was still success in the end. He mentioned that he would make this recipe again because it was the one that won him his first award. The first rays of the sun illuminated the outside of the restaurant. Someone knocked on the door, asking if Kang was inside. He opened the door, exhausted as he hadn't slept that night, and his muscles were sore from the fencing practice. It was the elderly chief who said Kang needed to come with him urgently. Kang said he was too tired and asked if they could do it later, but the old man insisted he come. Kang asked what happened. Even Bolinho looked drowsy. The elderly chief pushed him into a van that was parked outside. Bolinho just watched as the vehicle drove away. He stood in front of the house, unsure of what was happening. The pregnant woman was finally giving birth. The old man said he rushed over, even though he was hungover. Kang wasn't even surprised that he had been drinking the night before. They finally arrived at the room where the birth was taking place. People were anxious, wanting to know where she went into labor and if it was a boy or a girl. They wanted to know if the painter was okay, but he was just nervous, waiting for news about his wife. The grumpy old lady took charge and told everyone that this wasn't a marketplace and that all the chatter was disturbing those who were working. She told them to leave, and the elderly chief agreed, saying there were too many people there. He said he would stay since he was the elderly chief, but the old lady shut him down and said he would leave too. He insisted on staying, but the old lady dragged him through the hospital. She said it would be better for the painter if they left, but asked Kang to stay. Since he was the painter's friend, the elderly chief said he should stay too, as they were drinking buddies. Kang was left alone, unsure of what to do in that situation. For him, it was strange because he had never been in this kind of situation before and would have preferred the elderly chief to be here with them. The painter thanked Kang for his company, and Kang, still reactive, said it was nothing. The painter said that just one person was enough. He was very happy and worried at the same time. In fact, he was very nervous about the situation. Kang thought they were about the same age. Touching his shoulder, Kang told him that everything would be fine, and it was his first time in this situation too. The painter looked at Kang standing there beside him, and Kang seemed just as nervous as he was. That made Kang smile briefly. After that, he thanked his friend once again. Outside, one of the elders said it was a girl, and it had been a long time since a child was born in the village. They couldn't let such a happy day pass without celebration, so they decided to throw a big feast. The old man asked Kang how they were doing, and Kang said the painter was crying with emotion nonstop. He noticed that the people were already focused on the food, but the old man said that's their way of socializing more. That made Kang remember that he had been invited to visit a village too. He mentioned this to the elderly chief, asking what to bring. The old man didn't like hearing that another village wanted to take one of their young residents. As soon as he learned it was just a visit, he said that a bottle of Catch on the 51 or a typical dish should do the trick. Kang liked the suggestion and wanted to know if their village produced anything in particular. The elderly chief thought about it for a moment. He said it could be Korean beef, but it seems to be a specialty of another village. They continued chatting about it while the other villagers celebrated. He decided he would bring alcohol after all. Now on the other land, he held the horn in his hands. Before blowing it, he felt a bit apprehensive, but he decided to blow it anyway. The sound echoed through the forest, even distracting the animals with the noise. It was more difficult than it seemed, and he wondered if they would find him. In the blink of an eye, the wolf man was already there. They really did find him, and the wolf man said the young man was finally ready. He picked Kang up like a sack of rice and said they should go quickly. It happened so fast that Kang didn't even understand what was going on. He asked to be put down, but the wolf man was already many meters in the air while Kang screamed in panic. Kang felt sick from the excitement, and the wolf man commented that humans had become weaker, especially their legs. The young man recalled that the knight had said the same thing about his legs, and he started wondering if he really was that weak. The wolf man said they would walk the rest of the way. Pointing ahead, he mentioned that their village was just over there. Kang looked in the direction the man pointed. He could see the entire village nestled in the forest. He remarked that it resembled Mongolian yurts, but the wolf man didn't know what that was. Kang explained that it was a people he was familiar with, and the wolf man was intrigued that there were human communities similar to his own. This reminded Kang of something the knight had told him. There would be no problem with him visiting because the white wolf was considered a sacred creature, and there was also a treaty in place. In the past, there had been a great war involving various races. This conflict lasted for hundreds of years. As a result, the entire continent was plunged into chaos and destruction. If it had continued, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say the world would have ended. But the gods eventually intervened. A treaty was established, and the different races began to distance themselves from each other. This made Kang wonder if they would be friendly towards him. In the village, he attracted attention, with some commenting that they expected humans to be stronger and that this young man had a white wolf. In the village, the wolf man encountered others of his race. One of them expressed confusion. Why had the chiefess invited a human? Kang noticed that this one in particular didn't hide his hostility. The warrior chief reminded him not to forget that Kang was the chiefess's guest. The warrior chief questioned whether he was really protecting a human and what had happened to his warrior reputation. He replied that he was just following orders and told the other to get out of his way. The warrior chief confronted him, saying he didn't know he had the status to question him. He continued to oppose, and Balinho started growling. Some villagers, seeing the wolf's reaction, were startled. Balinho was furious, and they hadn't expected that. Even the warrior chief was left speechless. Kang asked what was wrong with them since the girl also became irritated. The wolf, the warrior, and Mona were all defending him. He really was special. Kang had come there because he was invited, and now he didn't know what was going on. He felt like a damsel in a fairy tale being defended. He didn't want to start a conflict, and then from above, someone descended from the sky. The chiefess appeared suddenly among them. She says she thought she would die of old age before he decided to come. The wolf man told Kang to be respectful in front of the person before him. She was Cassandra, the tribe's chiefess, and she said he could call her chiefess or Cassin, whichever he preferred. Kang bowed and introduced himself, saying his name was Kang. She told him not to be nervous because she had invited him to thank him, as it was her daughter who had been bothering him. He said it wasn't like that, but the chiefess said she knew her daughter well. The warrior chief asked the chiefess what made her thank a mere human. She turned to him and said, "So it was you." She thought it was some fool trying to break the treaty by fighting the human and advised him not to be that fool. He smiled awkwardly, saying he wasn't the type to want to cause a conflict. The chiefess smiled because she knew that someone as wise as him wouldn't do that. She said she was going to her tent and that he could return to his own affairs. In the tent, she apologized to Kang for the unfortunate encounter right after his arrival, explaining that some were not used to humans. He smiled timidly, feeling like he would be torn apart if he made a mistake. She said she wanted to meet the person from the rumors, but Kang didn't understand and Balinho dismissed it. Everyone in the forest talked about the one who walks with a white wolf and how he was being watched. Kang hadn't even imagined that. The chiefess said that wasn't important right now and thanked him for taking care of her daughter. She said they always repay their debts, and Kang quickly replied that there was no debt. He mentioned that he didn't want to come empty-handed and had brought a gift. She asked if the good smell was coming from that gift. He said it wasn't much and opened a case with food, revealing braised pork as a side dish. He wasn't sure if he had brought the right amount, and she was impressed that he had brought something so valuable. If that was the side dish, she wanted to know what else he had brought. He had also brought an alcoholic drink, unsure if it existed in this world. Incredible gifts, she remarked, wondering if these were what had charmed her daughter. Kang quickly warned not to open the bottle all at once, as it might explode, which made the guards' ears twitch in suspicion. They thought he might be planning to attack with it and began threatening him. He tried to explain that it was the pressure inside the bottle that could cause it to burst. The chiefess effortlessly sliced off the bottle's neck as if it were nothing. A rush of foam erupted from the bottle, confirming Kang's warning about the explosion. As the bubbles subsided, the chiefess looked a bit frustrated. She began drinking the contents in one go, much to the concern of the guards. They told her she shouldn't drink something unknown like that, as it was a strange beverage. She let out a loud belch right after. She commented that humans are talented and wanted to know how they made that wine. The taste was dazzling, and it made her want to drink even more. Pointing to the food case, she said she wanted to eat the accompaniment and asked if she could try it. Soon, a small piece was almost in her mouth. The aroma was delightful, and the texture was so good that it barely needed to be chewed. She was so pleased that she lost awareness of her surroundings and wanted to share it with everyone, but there was something she needed to do first. She bowed before him and formally apologized, much to the surprise of the guards. She said her tribe had been rude to such an important guest. The guards also apologized, admitting they had gone a bit overboard, but Kang assured them it was okay. The wolf man remarked that it was fortunate Kang hadn't lashed out at them, while Balinho was still in an angry state. Now that they had apologized, the time had finally come. She ordered everyone to be notified that they would hold a festival immediately for their special guest. The hunter who caught the best delicacy would receive the title of Chetu as a prize. They wanted to prove to Kang that their tribe could host the best banquet of all. Kang wondered why in every village he visited, people loved throwing banquets. A large bird flew across the sky. Sitting beside the chiefess, she explained that Chetu means the best hunter in the tribe. The one who holds this title has the privilege of leading the hunts, which is why they went hunting with such enthusiasm. She asked if he enjoyed hunting because he could participate if he wanted to. Kang politely declined. She said that if she weren't the chiefess, she would have gone into the forest to hunt too, but she needed to stay and look after the children. Kang offered to help while she slapped a snotty child. He was left speechless by what he saw. The chiefess asked if he wanted to play with them too, but he preferred to pass on the opportunity. She agreed it was probably for the best, while another child bit his leg. The chiefess warned that he smelled too good and the children might end up biting him by accident. She assured him they didn't eat humans like the orcs, while Kang struggled to pull the child off his leg. After much effort, he managed to free himself. The first hunter arrived with a beast from the forest's outskirts, known for being difficult to capture due to its speed. The warrior chief had earned his title as he was the one who caught that beast. The chiefess praised him, saying he was indeed an experienced hunter, to which he responded that she was too generous with her compliments. She asked Kang if he didn't find it magnificent, and the warrior chief remarked that the young man had probably never seen anything like it before. Sensing the sarcasm, Kang decided to play along rather than engage in a debate. He said it was true and asked how the chief managed to capture such a cute creature. That remark offended the old warrior, and the chiefess asked if Kang really found it cute. Kang explained that it had 4 legs and a beautiful coat. After all, Bolinho only caught ugly, horrible animals, and he thought this one was very cute. Soon after, Bolinho arrived with his catch, a magical beast with paralyzing venom that even the best warriors struggled to hunt. The warrior chief looked at Bolinho in astonishment. Bolinho glanced back at him, extremely smug. The old man was clearly pained inside. The girl also arrived with a small catch and was warmly congratulated by Kang and her mother. But she quickly felt embarrassed, seeing the size of the other catches already present. The wolf man pointed out that even though it was a pup, it was a sacred wolf. However, they still didn't know who would win the competition. The chiefess noticed that nearly everyone had returned from their hunts. She was finally ready to announce the results, and she declared that the one who would receive the title of Chedu was Haman, someone apparently unexpected. She repeated the name, and the young woman was surprised by the result. The warrior chief questioned the chiefess's decision, and she responded that the competition wasn't about capturing the strongest beast, but rather finding the best delicacy. A good hunter isn't just skilled, but also knows how to select their prey. She asked if anyone disagreed, and the wolf man agreed with her, though a young man beside him asked why he was almost crying. Now that the Chedu had been decided, it was time to light the bonfire and start the banquet. The tribe began to celebrate. Kang was relieved that Bolinho hadn't won, as it would have drawn even more attention. Now he could wait for the banquet to end so he could return home. The chiefess asked if he was enjoying the banquet, but Kang was struggling with the unpleasant smell. He wondered if they didn't have spices and how they managed to enjoy themselves amidst the bad odor. He asked the chiefess if the meat didn't end up with too strong a flavor when cooked this way, and she replied that it was always like this. The meat he had brought was special, which was why it had been consumed so quickly, but he could eat as much as he wanted of what was available. The chiefess found it odd that her daughter didn't want to eat the meat, as she usually loved it. Bolinho had a look of desperation, but Kang wanted him to hold out a little longer. Kang realized that the beastmen were already judging humans, and he couldn't afford to make a mistake. The chiefess then shoved a piece of meat into his mouth. He stood up angrily and declared that he would cook now, instructing Bolinho to find some citrus fruits, but the chiefess said guests it didn't work. Kang opened his suitcase full of cooking utensils. Some of the tribe members watched curiously. He was searing a piece of meat. He then placed it in a container with some of the alcohol, and added some of the fruits Bolinho had brought back. Now they just had to wait for about half an hour. When he opened the pot, the beastmen were curious about what he had made. The appearance was incredible, and the aroma was magnificent. He began slicing the piece of meat. Though it still smelled a bit strong, it wasn't bad at all. He remarked that there were still many things he could adjust, like the acidity and texture, but the chiefess had already popped the first piece into her mouth. She wondered if this was the same meat from the hunt, as it tasted similar to the one he had brought earlier. It didn't have a rancid flavor, and it was very tender, yet Kang was still dissatisfied with the result. He confirmed that it was the same meat, explaining that as a cook, his duty was to make things as delicious as possible. He then announced that he was going to cook more now. The chiefess laughed loudly, almost scaring him. She wasn't sure if he was shy or brave, but he was certainly interesting. Feeding the whole tribe would be a lot of work, and she couldn't let her guests take on all that labor, so she instructed the tribe members to gather more alcohol and citrus fruits. They started collecting the ingredients. She said it was their job to cook what they had hunted and thanked Kang for his generosity. Soon, the beastmen approached him to ask questions. The chiefess watched everything happily. As dusk approached, the chiefess told Kang that the wolfman would take him back. She wanted to say a proper goodbye, but joked that everyone would be hungover by then. She gave him a gift, a whistle, proof that they were now friends. He could blow it any time to call for them. She declared that he was now a friend of the tribe, and Kang thanked her sincerely. Back in his village, an old man in disguise was looking for empty tables. Kang was still processing everything that had happened. Not every day is unforgettable. The sun shone brightly on Kang's restaurant. Inside, he asked a customer what they would like to order, mentioning that he hadn't installed something yet. The customer, a bit suspicious, asked for a glass of cold water, while Kang explained that he wanted to install a security alarm. The customer was relieved to have found a restaurant there and was ready to place his order. Kang noticed that the man wasn't from the village. He ordered a vongole and requested that the pasta use beef fettuccine. Kang explained that he was out of that type of pasta at the moment, but the man said it was fine. Kang suggested using linguine instead and asked the customer if that would be okay. The customer agreed and thanked him for the suggestion. Kang hadn't expected anyone to ask for fettuccine, which is a flat, thick pasta. In the kitchen, he thought about how the villagers probably didn't even know the difference between pasta types. This customer must appreciate Western cuisine, but that didn't matter to Kang right now. Kang hadn't had the chance to fully demonstrate all his skills in a while, and now he presented the dish that looked stunning. The customer watched with fascination. He carefully picked up some of the pasta with his fork and calmly brought it to his mouth. The flavor of the clams was distinctive, but not overpowering, and the seasoning was perfect. These were not the skills of an ordinary chef. The customer hadn't expected to find such talent in a small village. After placing his fork on the table, he thought to himself that if this person could do it, he might be able to fulfill his plan. He asked Kang to come over for a moment. On the television, a famous painter was being interviewed. Kang asked if there was a problem with the food, and the man, hiding in his clothes, assured him that everything was fine. Soon, there was nothing left on the plate. The customer thanked Kang for the meal, saying it was excellent and he hadn't expected to find high-quality Italian food in such a rural area. Kang replied that he felt the same, not expecting to meet someone who appreciated that cuisine here, and asked if the customer enjoyed Italian food. The man said yes, as he had eaten a lot of it during his time abroad, and Kang mentioned that thanks to him, he was able to revisit his skills. Kang said he could make anything from that cuisine and hoped the customer would visit again. The customer mentioned that he liked minestra, a traditional soup with pasta and vegetables, simple to make and often eaten with family. Kang got excited and asked if he wanted it now, but the man said he would return tomorrow. Kang was a bit disappointed as he had gotten excited, but the customer said that Kang's skills made him look forward to the next day. The customer finally removed his glasses and introduced himself as Jung Gi-hoon. Kang also introduced himself, but he was already thinking about what to add to the soup. The customer asked if he watched television, and Kang replied that he rarely did. Kang didn't quite understand the significance of the introduction. While on the television, the program was discussing Jung's achievements as a painter. Kang finally realized that the program was talking about the production of a documentary about this man. Outside, Manhwa was sleeping soundly. He woke up startled by the shout Kang gave. Meanwhile, the blue sky decorated the landscape. The next day, Kang apologized for not recognizing Jung, saying he was a fan of his work. Jung asked if Kang would believe those words if he were in his place, and Kang admitted he wouldn't. But Jung explained that he had come to the countryside to be anonymous, feeling that he was becoming arrogant. He wanted to remember the old days, and Kang's dishes helped him do that. Kang listened attentively to the sincere confession. He presented the soup and wished his customer a pleasant experience. Jung dipped his spoon into the soup. He closed his eyes and took in the aroma. After tasting it, he said it was very good. Kang noted that Jung ate without showing much enjoyment, and Jung asked if Kang had been watching him. He then admitted it was the best he had ever had, without any exaggeration. It tasted like it was made in Italy, but it wasn't the flavor he was looking for, as he had eaten a lot of that during his time abroad. That was about 12 years ago. He had gone there to chase a dream and took on various jobs. He struggled and often only ate pasta with salt, too embarrassed to ask for leftovers at markets. Whenever he sold a painting, he would eat out, but he couldn't afford anything expensive. Back then, a soup like that was too valuable for him. At the end of that time, he received a good opportunity and left Italy, and since then, he had avoided Italian food. After some time, he realized that even painful memories are still memories. That's why he wanted to taste that simple soup again. Memories are romanticized in a way, and the soup wouldn't have any other flavor but that one. Kang said he could help him find the flavor he was searching for, but Jung thanked him for listening. Kang thought a bit about the painter's situation, having to live in a foreign land. He remembered when he was in a similar situation, how he was alone for a while, and how he worked hard. He asked the painter to describe the taste of the soup to him in detail. Jung said it wasn't as good as Kang's, and the broth was thicker, with cheap vegetables. It had a flavor similar to fish due to the coastal location of the town. Kang thought for a moment and asked if the artist had free time the next day because he wanted to make another soup for him. Bolinho was already holding his bowl waiting. Kang was sitting in front of the computer, thinking about the ingredients he would use. Perhaps the broth should be based on cachuco, a seafood stew, and maybe it should have a bit of tomato in the recipe. He researched the region where Jung had eaten the soup. It seemed like he had found what he was looking for. The coastal area of that place was exceptionally beautiful. While he was deep in thought, Bolinho wanted to eat the soup that hadn't been made yet. Kang was very focused on it. The artist's memories were more precise than Kang had initially thought. The day dawned in the county. The doorbell chimed, signaling that someone had arrived. Kang quickly moved forward to greet his customer, saying he had been expecting him. He asked the artist to sit down right away, as he was about to serve him. Jung mentioned that while he didn't watch much television, he had found several videos of Kang online. Now he understood why Kang was so skilled, though Kang modestly replied that he didn't pay much attention to content about himself. But more important than that, Kang wanted to know if Jung was ready to try the soup, to which the artist responded that he couldn't wait. Jung expressed his gratitude for having been listened to, saying that it had been the most important thing. Kang could sense that Jung's expectations were low and that he had been searching for this flavor for a long time. However, Kang was confident that this time would be different. Jung glanced at the pot and Kang explained that this was a special soup. Jung wondered if the same person had made it as the day before because it seemed quite different. He thought perhaps Kang had made it intentionally rough. But as soon as he took a spoonful, he was surprised. His mind was flooded with memories of Italy, the room you lived in there, the landscapes he painted. Jung prepared to say something. It had been simply sensational. Under different circumstances, he might have thrown it away, but he had finally tasted that flavor once more. Kang explained that he thought the broth might have been based on cachuco, but there was still something missing, the variable that made the broth thick and the fish flavor prominent. That's when he realized the broth contained oysters. Not even Jung would have expected this in the recipe. The person who made it back then probably did it intentionally, perhaps even to annoy someone. Kang noted that there are many ways to ruin a recipe, but this wasn't one of them. Perhaps the reason someone added oysters to Jung's soup was out of concern for his health, knowing he worked so hard and ate so poorly. Maybe this person was taking care of Jung, aware that he was too proud to ask for help. Jung remembered the woman who used to make that recipe for him. He said that if he had known that at the time, he wouldn't have gone back to that restaurant because it was his pride that helped him get through the tough times. But that woman worried too much about other people's problems. As he said his goodbyes, Jung mentioned that he had properties nearby and would stop by from time to time. Kang told him he was always welcome. Jung glanced around the interior of the restaurant. He commented that the walls seemed a bit bare. On his way out, he asked Kang to keep his visit a secret. But Kang pointed out that having a personal driver might raise more suspicion. Just then, Kang's old friend appeared behind him, asking who the important-looking person was. Kang was startled by his friend's presence, and Yoonsep asked how he had been. The chef wanted to know what his friend was doing there, and Yoonsep said he was on vacation but too lazy to travel far. He He wanted a place with fresh air and delicious meals, so he remembered Kang and mentioned he would only stay for 3 days. All Kang had to do was cook 9 meals for him, but Kang replied that he wouldn't do it. Inside the restaurant, Yoonsap admired the decor and Kang jokingly said he would charge him for every meal. Yoonsap looked at the little dog and tried to recall its name, and Kang suggested that his friend try to pet Bolinho. Finding him adorable, Yoonsap reached out his hand. But before he could touch him, Bolinho dodged like a ninja. Kang knew this would happen and teased his friend. He said that only he could touch Bolinho and challenged his friend to try. Yoonsap asked if Kang got along with people there with that attitude, and Kang replied that not only was he well-liked, but they even threw a party for him. His friend looked at him with pity, imagining that Kang must be very lonely there. Kang tried to explain better to convince him of the truth. Someone entered the restaurant and Kang asked his friend to wait, as it might be a customer. It turned out to be the village painter. He asked if Kang was on a break, but Kang said the restaurant was open and asked if the painter was going to eat. But the painter was only there to give him something. They were gloves for handling hot items. It was a gift from his wife, and thanks for a recipe Kang had made for her. There was even a drawing of Bolinho on the gloves. She wanted to thank him in person, but leaving the house was still difficult for her. Kang asked him to pass along his thanks and said he would definitely use the gift. Just then, 2 children appeared at his restaurant. Kang asked the kids how school was going, but they replied that they were on vacation. Sangdu mentioned that there was a part of his homework he didn't understand, so he came to ask Kang for help. Kang was impressed that the boy was already working on his vacation homework. Just then, the elderly village chief appeared as well, commenting on how many visitors were there. He joked that Kang was really becoming a celebrity, and Kang wondered if they had all planned to visit him together. He had no idea why there was such a coincidence. Kang's old friend observed the scene with happiness, glad to see that his friend was doing well. Kang smiled cheerfully at his guests. Yoonsap, who had come to keep Kang company, realized it wasn't necessary. Kang was socializing well, though Yoonsap was happy at least to enjoy some good food for free. Kang heard his friend's footsteps heading upstairs. He then asked the village chief what had brought him by, and the old man said he was looking for people to help. It was harvest time. He wanted to know if Kang could help for 2 days, saying he would even pay him. He knew Kang was busy, so it was fine if he couldn't. Kang considered helping, but mentioned that he had a guest staying with him. The old man assumed that Kang wouldn't be able to help, but Kang immediately said he would help and that the chief had come to the right place. They could count on the help of 2 people. The sun shone brightly in the clear sky. Yoonsap was sweating, dressed in clothes that protected him from the sun. He cursed his friend for making him work in the fields during his vacation. Kang had just dug up some potatoes and asked the elderly woman where he should dig next. She was impressed by his agility and commented that the young man was stronger than he looked. Indeed, he was in better shape, possibly due to the night's training. Soon it would be lunchtime and someone suggested they take a break. The elderly woman noted that Kang's friend seemed quite exhausted. Kang told his friend to keep working, joking that he would look for a funeral home to take care of him afterward. The field was now empty. Yoonsap remarked that he should have realized something was up when he saw Kang preparing a big breakfast, and Kang told him not to show up without warning again. Yoonsap countered that it wasn't what he had taught Kang, forcing him to work during his vacation. Kang then asked his friend what he wanted for dinner, promising to make it for him. Yoonsap said he would like to eat jambalaya. Kang confirmed if he meant the American street food, surprised that his friend didn't request something more refined. He wanted to make sure that's what Yoonsap really wanted, and Yoonsap confirms, saying he had been craving it. They were already back at Kang's restaurant. Kang was in the kitchen preparing the dish. He was frying shrimp shells in a pan. Yoonsap asked why he was doing that, and Kang explained that it was to make a sauce, as it would be wasteful to discard them. He added that the shrimp heads gave a special flavor to the sauce made that way. While preparing the sauce, he was also grilling sausages in butter. Once they were ready, he added chicken, followed by the rice. Next came the vegetables and the sauce made from the shrimp. Finally, the whole shrimp were added and the pot was closed until everything was ready. The jambalaya was now complete, and Yoonsap asked if it was okay for Bolinho to eat it too. Kang reassured him that Bolinho had his own dog-friendly version. Kang then asked Yoonsap if he had always liked jambalaya, and Yoonsap said that Kang probably didn't remember. It was the dish Kang made for him the first time he visited Kang's home. Indeed, Kang didn't remember that. Yoonsap had wanted to eat out, but Kang insisted on cooking, even though there weren't many ingredients at home that day, and yet he had made something incredible. Moreover, something else had left a lasting impression on him. That dish was so good, even the rice was exceptional. The seafood and vegetables were all perfectly seasoned, tasting better than anything they could have bought that day. Even after all this time, the recipe was still amazing. Whether it was back then or today, it remained perfect. That's why, Yoonsap said, Kang was destined for success. He had known since that time that Kang would become a standout chef, and he was certain that soon his friend would regain his full sense of taste. Then Kang revealed to him that his sense of taste had already returned. Yoonsap asked how it happened, but Kang explained that it had been a while, though his sense of taste hadn't fully returned. It seemed that moving to the countryside to de-stress had really worked wonders. Hearing this good news, Yoonsap wondered if Kang would return to the capital. However, Kang wasn't sure yet. Initially, he had been afraid to go back, but now he had grown fond of his life there. Yoonsap noticed the way Kang responded and told him not to rush things since his sense of taste was still gradually returning. But he suggested celebrating his friend's progress with a beer. Kang smiled, expressing his gratitude for Yoonsap's support, so they toasted to the good news. They then talked about everything that had happened to Kang since he moved to the countryside, including the banquet they held in his honor. The next day, Kang found himself in another place. He was practicing with a wooden sword. His fencing lessons were ongoing. The knight easily disarmed him but praised his pupil, noting that Kang could now endure longer training sessions and was much more resilient. In their current situation, Kang would last 5 seconds in combat against the younger knight, and Kang realized he'd be knocked out in that time. Even though it had been a month of lessons, he was still no match for the knight, who said he would use a bit more strength in the next round. Kang thought he could barely hold the wooden sword under these conditions. The knight got distracted by something in the forest, sensing a presence. A noise approached them. It was the wolf man, who commented that the knight had managed to notice his approach. Getting closer, he admitted that it was indeed impressive. Kang greeted the wolf man and Mona, and the knight asked if they were people he knew. Kang explained that it was the wolf man who had brought the invitation to the beastmen's village. The wolf man asked if there were still soldiers like the knight, to which the knight replied that the beastman had a fierce look. The knight then wondered if Kang could ask the beastman if he was interested in training with him, but Kang suggested that the knight ask himself. The knight said he could, but he didn't have a translation artifact like Kang, and the wolf man asked what the human was saying. Kang hadn't realized this before, and the knight asked if Kang had been understanding everyone thanks to an artifact. Kang had never really thought about it, and the knight pointed out that the wolf man must have a reason for being there. He said they were nearly done with training and could wrap up, but he wanted Kang to continue improving his stamina. Kang then asked why they had come, and the wolf man said that Mona wanted to visit, so he accompanied her. But he also wanted to know if Kang was learning fencing from the human, and Kang confirmed that he was. Kang explained that he started learning after sharing his food with the knight. The wolf man was silent for a moment before addressing Kang directly, who turned his attention to him. The wolf man mentioned that he had also received food from Kang once, and that Kang had brought food to their village. 2 favors. Now it was his turn to return the kindness, but Kang tried to say it wasn't necessary. The wolf man insisted that this was his repayment and that he would teach Kang the beastman's martial art. Kang, feeling overwhelmed, said that fencing was already a lot, and the wolf man asked if he was underestimating the beastman's martial art. Caught off guard, Kang quickly said he couldn't wait to start his lessons, and the wolf man said they could begin immediately. This was the most powerful martial art on Earth, and they would start with the basics. Kang was apprehensive, knowing how much fencing already made him suffer. The wolf man instructed him to crouch down. The basics began with learning to walk on all fours. He would have to walk like that to the top of the hill. A new kind of suffering awaited him. Discreet rays of light filtered through the window of Kang's room. He lay in bed with Bolinho keeping him company. Bolinho was sound asleep, nestled against his friend. Meanwhile, Kang's entire body ached and he didn't even want to get out of bed. But he began stretching as soon as he got up. If it weren't for Bolinho's help, he wouldn't have been able to get out of bed that day. Bolinho's saliva seemed to have some property that helped eliminate pain. Kang only hoped that saliva would also help him regain the dignity he felt he had lost. Already in the kitchen, he began organizing things for the day. Kang suddenly remembered that the beastmen didn't use spices, and he wondered if the concept even existed in their world. However, it seemed that the knight knew the basics about spices, and it was just the beastmen who lacked that knowledge. Eating the way they did felt like an insult to the ingredients, and he thought about gifting them some sauces, but he knew he couldn't keep giving them sauces every time they ran out. Ideally, they would find spices in their own world. At that moment, a brilliant idea struck him. In the knight's village, there must be some spices. He decided to go there and talk to him. Upon arriving, the guards gave him a grand reception as the friend of their captain. Kang hadn't expected such a pompous welcome, and it seemed that the knight had been waiting to do this. The knight explained that he had actually just been training his soldiers and had them put on this display, which Kang found a bit of an abuse of power. The knight said that they had a deep connection, yet Kang had chosen to visit the beastmen's village first. But he assured Kang that he would treat him well. Kang asked if all these soldiers were under his command, and the knight confirmed they were. Kang expressed surprise at the knight's high rank, but the knight said it was too early to be impressed, as there was more to see. A mage approached and asked if this was the person they had been talking about. The knight confirmed it to Roman, who commented that he didn't do favors for just anyone. Kang was impressed by the mage's cloak, staff, and overall appearance. It was clear he was a real mage. Ronan greeted Kang and welcomed him to the territory of Robentus. He introduced himself as a mage and offered to put on a fireworks display for him, which left Kang completely fascinated. Fire started to shoot from his staff, rising into the sky. It was true magic. Kang's eyes sparkled at the display. However, he wasn't as surprised by the demonstration as the mage had expected. In his mind, he had expected something more. The mage noticed Kang's lack of surprise and asked if he had seen magic before, remarking that it was what he'd expect from a friend of the knight. To Kang, magic didn't compare to real fireworks. Now inside the village, Kang was getting to know it better. He had changed clothes as his usual attire would attract too much attention in that place. The market stretched along the street, and the knight told him to take his time exploring. He mentioned he would be meeting with the lord of the area and would return later to join him for a festival in the evening. Kang was impressed by the variety of items available in the market. Something red caught his attention. It looked like a pepper, but it had a different, more herbaceous smell. He couldn't tell from the scent alone, but he was curious to find out its purpose. The mage explained that it was used in stews, and in hot regions it was often just boiled with water and nothing else. Kang asked why the mage was there, and the mage replied that the knight had requested his presence. The mage then wondered why Kang would need company just to walk around the market. But after observing Kang, he realized the knight had been right to ask for the favor. Kang didn't quite understand, and the mage asked if he needed that item. He told the vendor to set some aside for the young man. Kang tried to decline, but the mage insisted, saying he had more money than he needed. Kang was handed the item in a bag and was very pleased, which the mage found more interesting than his reaction to the magic. In the square, there was a large and beautiful fountain. Kang expressed his gratitude for everything, and the mage explained that he rarely spent money as he was usually absorbed in his research. With all these spices, Kang hoped to create new recipes, and the mage wanted to know why he needed so many. Kang explained that he wanted to study them, and the mage wondered if he was going to write a thesis. But Kang clarified that it wasn't anything that complex. He just wanted to help his friends enjoy their meals more. Since the spices were different, he wanted to understand them first. The mage then understood why a white wolf accompanied this young man. Kang asked if the mage wasn't hungry after all that walking. He had opened one of his bags containing food and offered it to the mage. He explained that they were pancakes, and the mage, though not hungry, decided to try one out of politeness. After all, the last time he had eaten was 4 days ago. But as soon as he tasted it, his expression changed completely. He had thought it would be like bread, but it was entirely different. Even though he didn't know what kind of vegetable was in it, the aroma was familiar and comforting. The texture of the pancake was perfect, and the mage eyed the suitcase eagerly. He asked if he could have more, and Kang told him he could eat it all. The mage realized he couldn't even remember the last time he ate something for the pleasure of it. Kang observed that the mage seemed quite hungry and asked if he wanted another suitcase of food. Curious, Kang asked why the mage needed company to walk through the market. The mage explained that it was because of thieves. They're the lesser evil around here, the mage noted. Bolinho began to grow agitated, which caught Kang's attention. The mage explained that white wolves were considered a sacred species in their folklore, but not everyone believed them to be holy, especially those who claimed to believe in God. At that moment, a group of religious zealots approached them, led by a man who greeted the mage. The man remarked that it had been a while since he had seen the mage in the laboratory, to which the mage replied that he occasionally stepped out for some fresh air. The man asked what brought the bishop to the market, noting that it wasn't a place fitting for someone of his stature. Kang realized that this bishop was a high-ranking figure in the church. The bishop explained that he visited the market from time to time to save lost souls, but today there was something more important. He turned to Kang and asked if he was the master of the White Wolf, and if so, he'd like to have a word with him. Kang felt a sense of déjà vu, reminiscent of his encounter in the Beastmen's village, but this time the hostility was directed at Bolinho, not him. The bishop invited Kang to visit the church with him, insisting that he had no issues with Kang, just with the wolf. They wanted to take a closer look at Bolinho. The mage quickly intervened in their conversation. He stated that Kang was a friend of the knight, and that he was in charge of showing him around the city. The bishop would need the mag's permission to take him away. The bishop found it hard to believe that the mage was in charge of such a task. A nun behind the bishop remarked that the young man looked like the one the knight had taken to the ceremony earlier. They advised caution regarding the situation, while Bolinho continued to growl. The bishop decided to change the subject, lamenting that Kang already had other commitments. As they left, he mentioned that they could talk at another time if possible. The mage's staff, which had been glowing, returned to normal. He then remarked that he had done his job as Kang's bodyguard, adding that nothing good ever came from fundamentalists. Kang realized that the mage had used magic to intimidate them. Concerned, Kang asked if the mage was exhausted from the fireworks earlier, thinking the old man might collapse any moment now. The mage explained that the fireworks had indeed taken a lot out of him as they required great skill, but he assured Kang that he'd explain how things work later. Time passed, dusk settled in, and the knight returned, asking if Kang was okay. Kang's ears were bleeding slightly from listening to the mage talk non-stop for 3 hours. Kang assured him that he was fine and inquired about the people celebrating nearby. The knight explained that they were the same soldiers from earlier, and he hadn't forced them to be there. The mage added that the soldiers were curious about Kang, because the mag was taking care of him. That's why Kang had felt like he was being watched the whole time. Bowen approached them and mentioned that the meat was ready, suggesting that Kang try it. He thanked her. She insisted that there was no need to thank her, as it was him who was suffering by keeping her husband company. She revealed that the knight had taken Kang as a student, expressing her sympathy, which the soldiers overheard with suspicion. She then told the child, her daughter, to eat as well, but the girl, Hina, said she wanted to eat with the little wolf. The knight suggested she eat first and give the wolf some food afterward. But Kang knew that wouldn't work since Bolinho would have already eaten too much by then. One of the soldiers remarked that the food had disappeared while he was eavesdropping on the conversation, and Bolinho was calmly chewing. Kang observed the situation, thinking he might need to put Bolinho on a fast the next day. As he tasted the beer, he noticed it was refreshingly strong, understanding now why the knight liked the beer Kang brought. The meat in front of him intrigued him. It seemed that the woman had cut it immediately after it came out of the oven. He wondered if it had been cooked on a rotisserie. As he tasted the meat, he detected a somewhat herbaceous flavor reminiscent of basil. He complimented the knight on the meat and asked what it was seasoned with, to which the knight replied that it was Eucilia. Kang remembered buying that earlier, and the knight mentioned that it was a spice from far away, not sold in all parts of the village. Kang asked if Eucilia could be found in the forest, but the knight informed him that there wasn't much in that forest that was edible. Kang was overly optimistic in thinking that there would be many plants and spices to discover in the forest. Realizing he couldn't provide spices indefinitely, he felt like he was back at square one. Knight asked if he intended to introduce these spices to the Beastmen's village. Knight acknowledged the limitations they might face due to the scarcity of spices, but began brainstorming a solution with Kang. He mentioned that it had been 100 years since trade with them had ceased. However, considering it was Kang, reopening trade might be possible again. Knight said he would discuss this matter with the lord of the territory. Kang now felt that the situation was becoming much more complicated than he anticipated. At that moment, the woman informed her husband that they were out of beer, and he said he would go out to buy more. But Kang, who had forgotten something, mentioned that he had brought something special for them. The soldiers began shouting excitedly, eager to know what kind of alcohol Kang had brought because it was simply amazing. This beer was unlike anything they had ever tasted before. Knight clarified that he wasn't the one who brought the beer. It was Kang who had brought it with him during his visit to their village. The soldiers eagerly asked Kang how they could get more. Kang, taken aback by their enthusiasm, realized he couldn't simply tell them it was from another dimension. Instead, he grabbed a bottle of each of the drinks and said there was a way to enjoy them even more, asking if the soldiers were interested in learning. They shouted in unison, eagerly agreeing, and Kang placed a mug on the table. He explained that in his homeland, this drink was called a submarine. He mentioned that the proportions could vary depending on personal preference, but that he would demonstrate a basic mix. The soldiers watched with wide eyes, anticipating something miraculous. He mixed the 2 drinks in the mug using a 3-to-7 ratio. Taking a spoon in his hand, he began stirring the drink continuously. The soldiers witnessed this as if it were an alcoholic miracle. Once he finished, he invited them to taste it. The soldiers went wild, asking what kind of skill that was and begging Kang to become their drinking buddy. Kang never imagined he would use something Yoonsap had taught him, but he was glad he had learned it. The soldiers acknowledged that the mixed drink was even better and wanted to try it in different proportions as well. Kang suddenly found himself becoming the MVP of the night, so he introduced another drink to them that evening. Before long, there wasn't a soldier left standing. They had all been taken down by the drinks. In the castle's hall, a group was practicing fencing in a friendly manner. 2 of the guards were chatting about Kang, trying to remember his name. They had heard he was Knight's student and wondered if he was any good. One of them wanted to spar with Kang, but was too hungover to try. They reminisced fondly about the drinking session, as they couldn't stop consuming that delicious alcohol. Even if it had been poison, they would have gladly drunk it, and they were already thinking about when the captain would invite Kang back again. They couldn't wait to drink the concoctions Kang had made. The sun streamed through Kang's bedroom window. He prepared himself for the day with some hangover remedies lined up on his table. He had everything he needed except for one thing. He called for Belinho to join him. Belinho approached, tail wagging, expecting something. In reality, Kang was going to leave his friend in someone else's care. He was heading to the capital, and he knew he couldn't take care of Belinho there with so many people around. The elderly villagers thanked him for trusting them, assuring him that they would take great care of Belinho. Kang said he would take care of the children going with him, so they didn't need to worry. Yoonsap, Kang's old friend, was already waiting in the car, ready to go. The Vietnamese woman expressed her gratitude that Kang was taking her daughter on an outing, remarking on how kind he was. The elderly chief commented that Kang wasn't the same person who had arrived in the village. He was now completely changed, and Kang was returning to the capital. Looking into the backseat, Kang said that it had taken some time, but he had fulfilled his promise to bring the boy to the big city. But it was the boy who was grateful, and the girl said it would be her first time in Seoul. Yoonseop, surprised not only that Kang was returning to the capital, but also that he was bringing children along, drove with a smile. Their first stop was a theme park. Kang mentioned that he didn't appear on TV anymore, so he could blend in, but Yoonseop said he had a hat in the car for situations like this. Yoonseop was pleased that Kang was going to a park with lots of people, something he never would have done in the past. Glancing in the rearview mirror, Yoonseop thought he saw a white furball. Meanwhile, the elderly villagers were looking for Belinho, who had disappeared. They arrived at the amusement park. The children wanted to go on all the rides, and Kang thought he might get sick if he accompanied them. He thought he was fine since he interacted calmly with people in the village. He wondered if it was because he knew no one there knew him. His hand began to sweat with anxiety. But then the boy took Kang's hand. He said that Kang must be terrified of the rides, but that he would take care of him. He would be less scared if they all went together. Kang was happy about that and said he was already feeling better. The friend who was lurking noticed that Kang was fine and was already prepared to call an ambulance. Since he had nothing else to do, he wondered whether or not to tease Kang for being the kid's babysitter. It seemed there was a celebrity there and people wouldn't stop taking pictures. While they were on the roller coaster, the security team tried to contain Belinho, but no one could touch him. They kept having fun, and Belinho continued dodging like a ninja. The group ate peacefully, and the security team asked if anyone had seen a white dog around. Lying in a hospital bed, a woman looked out the window. The door opened, and someone entered the room. It was her son who had just arrived. She was very surprised by what was happening. The woman asked if that really was Sang-hook, her son. Outside, Kang asked the girl where she would like to go next. She said it was fine and that they could go home. In the room, Sang-hoo was hugging his mother, and Mayong said she also wanted to go back to hers. Night fell in the village, and a bus approached. The children got off the bus, happy to have arrived. Mayong's mother asked if she had fun, and the girl said the day was wonderful. Next to Kang, Belinho appeared completely exhausted. He picked him up and asked if his friend had come there just to greet him. Seeing that Belinho was very tired, Kang imagined that he must have had a lot of fun and felt sorry for leaving him alone. Next time, he would take Belinho too so that he could see the capital. But he could see that his little friend was completely worn out. The next morning, Kang was in the other dimension. He was cooking for Belinho and the cat girl. In the pot, a very tasty dish was being prepared. The meat from the jumping birds was without the strong odor, and the spices he bought were very useful. He was even thinking about using them in his restaurant. He had been testing these spices for 2 weeks and had already created some recipes. Tasting what he made, he realized it turned out better than expected. Mona loved the recipe, a sign that he could share it with the beastman. He should tell Jennifer too, who was Cavaliero's wife. A mysterious observer wondered if all Kang did was cook and how strange it was that he was in the company of a white wolf and a beast girl. The observer had been watching him, finding him suspicious, but all he did was cook and eat. Now the observer wanted to know what Kang did to make the food smell so good. The observer didn't want to eat the meat, but the smell made them constantly hungry. They saw that Kang had eaten everything and finally realized that the white wolf had disappeared. The observer prepared to flee from there. The wolf could easily find them, and as soon as the observer tried to flee, Belinho was already on the branch with them. Belinho barked, as if to say that he had just found the observer. A cracking branch caught Kang's attention, and he thought it was Belinho. He thought Belinho had caught another bird, but hoped it wasn't, as he wouldn't cook anymore. Then he saw on the ground what seemed to be a woman, but with pointed ears like an elf. She was lying on the ground in front of Kang. The woman couldn't believe she had fallen from a tree. An elf had fallen from a tree, and not just any elf. It was the tribe's best scout. Not only that, but a human had witnessed the incident, and Kang asked if she was okay. He offered help, and the woman called for Sona, her bird. It flew over their heads high in the sky. The bird prepared to dive. It descended like lightning. The elf said she had shown him an embarrassing side of herself, and she warned him to be careful about telling anyone what he saw that day, because if he snitched, things would get tough for him. It wouldn't be pleasant. And she mysteriously disappeared in front of him. If she was indeed an elf, what Cavaleros said about there being other races was becoming increasingly clear. If she fell from the tree, it was Belinho's doing, who has an innocent look on his face, even though he's guilty. Kang feels sorry for her and thinks he should apologize for what happened. Looking at the ground, he notices she dropped a dagger. It must be hers, so he decides to keep it for safekeeping. Mona is quite agitated. It was the wolfman who had caught her, and he greets Kang. He asks what Mona did wrong, and Kang replies that the chief sent him to fetch her because she left without permission again. He said she can't have privileges just because she's the chief's daughter and that she needs to return. However, there was something different in the area. The wolfman asks why Kang smells like an elf. Kang says the smell comes from the dagger, and he almost tells what happened but remembers the threat. The wolfman waits for the story's conclusion. Kang nervously says that an elf only falls from a tree if they are very clumsy, sending a shiver down his spine. He then says nothing happened and asks if the wolfman is hungry. He mentions he prepared something new for him to try, but the pot was empty. The wolfman says he isn't hungry, but Kang insists and says he won't let him leave without something. He brought materials to make skewers in case the spices didn't work out. As the skewers were on the grill, he was glad he brought everything. The skewers were almost done. Once they were ready, he offered one to the wolfman. He asked him to eat quickly or else Mona and Belinho would finish everything. The wolfman's ears perked up immediately. He said it wasn't bad at all, while his tail wagged nonstop. Kang said he'd pack the rest for him to take home so Mona wouldn't eat it all. In the middle of the forest, the elf was with her bird. She knew only the human and the wolf saw her fall, and if they kept quiet, everything would be fine. They didn't seem like the type to talk much. The wolfman appeared and said she didn't even try to hide, and he knew she was watching Kang. He asked the scout what she wanted there. She said she came to find out what the commotion in the forest was about since it was a point where 3 races could meet. It was a neutral area, and it wasn't good for conflicts to happen there. The wolfman said Kang was a friend of the beastman, and she should stop being so suspicious. Just by looking at his muscular body, the elf knew the wolfman was formidable. Now she needed to understand why the wolfman was protecting that human and what it was he held so firmly in his hand. She said she would keep an eye on him as long as he didn't act suspiciously. In Seoul, life continues as usual. One of the famous women was going to talk to her manager. He said she should be in production, but the girl said she was on a break and needed to get something from the car. He opened the car while messing with his phone. She asked if it was insurance related, but it was just some money Kang had transferred to him for the ride. The girl said Kang was quite different from the rumors about his personality. But as a celebrity, she was used to not believing in rumors. The manager said Kang made enemies because he wasn't good at sucking up. Unfortunately, he ended up angering someone very problematic. A weirdo was getting out of the car. A fool with a sick inferiority complex. He arrived complaining that he was only called when he was busy and that he should hire a manager. Kang's friend asked the famous woman if she remembered the invitation she received to appear as a guest on a show. Well, he doesn't remember all the guests, but she should be careful with that fool. Most of the negative rumors about Kang came from this jerk's mouth, a veteran in Kang's culinary field. The fool looked at his phone with a hungry expression. He saw a news article about Kang having fun at the park, thinking Kang was actually missing due to a wrist injury. He was upset to see Kang happy. A bystander approached to see what the fool was looking at on his phone. The fool showed the picture of Kang smiling and said that didn't look like someone going through a period of introspection. It's no surprise people talk badly about him, but the bystander said that had nothing to do with it. Unfortunately, the anonymous person got the job through the fool's recommendation, so he stayed quiet. He said Kang no longer appears on shows and just has fun, and he wanted to know if the rumors about him were true. He had lost his sense of taste, even though they said he had stepped away due to a wrist injury. The fool asks where he heard that gossip. He learned it from a friend who worked with Kang, and the fool was delighted to know that. The extra felt uneasy about having shared sensitive information with the fool. A guy from production asks everyone to get ready for the start of the recording. The extra asks them to hurry up, but the fool is deep in thought. There will be a chef competition on the 100th episode, and several chefs have been invited. The fool can't wait for it to happen because he wants to crush Kang. Outside the restaurant, the sun illuminates the lawn. Inside, it seems there's a familiar customer. It was the artist who praises Kang's skills because the pizza was wonderful. He's happy to live nearby so he can eat good food easily, but Kang says he should be the one to thank. The painting he received was a great gift and should be in a museum, not in a restaurant. The artist says it was nothing and that he'd like to have another Vongol. Kang says he'll prepare it, but notices something. Yoon Seop was calling him at that moment. As soon as he answers, his friend asks if he's going to participate in that show. But Kang doesn't even know what it's about. Since he doesn't know, he asked his friend not to go on the internet and hung up the phone. Now he was curious about the show and why he should stay away from the internet. He couldn't resist and went to check some news. It seems his presence was confirmed on a special show. Not only had he not given any interviews, but the comment section was already full of nonsense. He hadn't received any invitation, and the artist asks if everything's okay. Kang starts sweating and wonders what that article was that he read. It seems like things are happening again. The artist is worried because it seems Kang is feeling unwell. He's already thinking about calling an ambulance. Seeing Kang's hands trembling, he tells him to sit down. But Kang slaps both hands against his face. The artist was surprised for a moment, and Kang said he was fine. He said it was nothing, that even he was surprised he managed to stay calm. He's doing well mentally and is just going to ignore it. He remembered that he was asked for a vongole and goes to make it. But the artist is still concerned about Kang. At the very least, he should wipe off the sweat before cooking. Night falls in the mysterious dimension. Kang is at his campsite. Sitting on the ground, he watches the fire he made. He had a conversation with his friend and said that someone was trying to spread false rumors. Kang is happy because he has an excellent friend by his side. Still, all of this was very exhausting. Bolinho just returned and Kang asks if he was out hunting. He has a bird in his mouth and Kang says it was a small catch by his standards, but that bird looked familiar. The elf screams desperately for her bird. She's there in the clearing with him now. Kang kneels down and takes the opportunity. He apologizes for what Bolinho just did, but the elf says she's also at fault for not being careful. But it's incredible that a human can even see that bird. She confirms if he can see it, and Kang says he can. He says he can perfectly see the sorry state it's in. She still finds him very suspicious, and Kang says he has something to give her. It was her dagger, and he said he found it on the ground the last time they met. She had been looking for it, and now she's starting to think Kang might not be a bad person. He asked if she didn't want to eat something before leaving since he had plenty of meat, but the elf said she doesn't eat meat, and she was on patrol, so she needed to head back soon. But he said that since she came all the way there, she might as well eat something before going back, and she found him insistent. Kang decides to make a small snack for her, without meat. He has the perfect idea for it. The elf realizes he wants her to eat it. She begins to cook that thing, which at first looks quite ugly. She doesn't want to eat it, but Kang says that was just the outer layer. To prevent the contents from burning in the fire, inside was a baked potato, and camping without potatoes isn't camping. He spread some butter on it. After handing it to her, he said she could take some home if she wanted. She tries a bit of the potato. To her surprise, it was quite delicious. The subtle flavor and sweetness were perfect for her palate. She thought human food would be bad, and Bolinho is devouring his potatoes. She wants to know what fruit that is and if he cultivated it himself. Kang was distracted and didn't pay attention to her question. But he quickly snaps back to reality and asks her to repeat it. He had spaced out for a moment. She asks if there's something on his mind now. She says that part of her job is to observe him, and he always makes that expression when he's worried. He says it's not exactly worry. In fact, he's exhausted. He explains that rumors about him have spread, and he always ends up being hated because of lies. He wanted to hide in the forest and never leave, just to escape from that judgment. She tells him that when elves reach adulthood, they go through a ceremony. Tests that are difficult for the young, and she asks Kang if he suspects why they are so challenging. Elves live long lives and go through all kinds of pain and suffering. There are moments when the pain is more than they can handle, and to overcome these moments, that's what their ceremony is for. The problem always repeats itself if you run away from it. She says she doesn't know what Kang is going through, but she hopes he doesn't give up on what he wants because of others' opinions. She thanks him for the meal and bids him farewell, disappearing into the night. Kang reflects on her advice. He apologizes to Bolinho and says they will need to return home. Kang has decided that he will participate in that show.